houses, polar expeditions. It's an energy. It's a power source. It doesn't generate a lot of electricity, but it generates some over a very long period of time.
Okay, so hold on. Let me just, to be fair, this is all kind of getting into the weeds, although that is a whole interesting thing to consider, all those points. But Pazza, just to kind of stick to the main topic, can I just ask you, and just let Pazza respond to this? So, if you could fly over the poles with such ease, relatively, why isn't there like fully well documented flights over both poles? What is your answer to that? Like, why isn't there? If we were on a globe and it was so easy to be able to fly over the poles, wouldn't that be monumentous? And why isn't there well documented trips of both?
Well, in non-recent times, obviously, commercial flights there was no tenable commercial flights certainly over the South Pole. No one wants to fly.
We're talking about footage, not pass. We're not talking about passenger flights. We're talking about video documentation, because humans, as far as we know, it can't be argued that humans love documenting their achievements. The simplest things have been documented, and you think that the coolest things, the lamest things have been documented. Why haven't the coolest things been documented? That's inhuman to think that there's some human reason why it hasn't been.
So
that's kind of along the lines of, go ahead.
So if you were on a, say, 6,500 mile journey from, say, for example, South America to Perth, I mean, would you want the camera mounted under the plane, or from a window from someone in the plane, or from the cockpit?
I have a supposed picture of Pluto. I don't have a picture of the North Pole or a video flying over it when it costs a fraction of 1% of the cost, and we have, as admitted by you, indefinitely flying aircraft. It just doesn't add up, dude. Not even one little bit.
Hang on.
Dude, the way you can tell is that there's millions of people have went east to west around the realm. Millions and millions. What are the odds that there's only 3 or 4 people they supposedly did the north to south circumnavigation, and one is he turned around and came back and they gave him the freaking record, that whole horseshit one. It's just absurd that anybody believes that anybody can do it. It can't be done. It's because it's not a globe. It's freaking so painfully obvious.
You're not gonna give me photos of Pluto and not a video flying over Antarctica when we have indefinitely flying aircraft.
If I took a video of from a window of an airplane flying over the South Pole on this journey, I gave it to you. How would you distinguish this from, say, a 5-hour flight over Siberia? There's nothing on the ground that you go, oh, there it is. There's the South Pole.
Well, you know what, man? The motivation behind doing such a thing isn't for flat earthers. The reason why they would do it isn't because they're trying to be transparent and obvious and prove something to a niche internet community. The reason they do it is the same reason they've documented slugs at the bottom of the Atlantic Ocean, is because if it's cool and if it is real, we video it. That's what humans do. And when it's easy to do, we do it, especially if it's a cool thing to document. And it would be a cool thing to document. The fact that it doesn't exist means that they probably can't do it, or they're hiding something. That's an obvious truth to any rational thinking person.
We're back to, where are all the videos of the 24-hour sun that were filmed in high definition for 24 hours, aren't we?
We're past that.
That's really weird that there was lacking footage in Antarctica of the 24-hour sun for so many years. Yes, that is extremely bizarre and seems to be purposeful. Because there's ones of the north for as long as we've had cameras, we've had them of the north.
You're insulting. By that question, you are insulting. What's that gay lying priest name? What's his name? The guy who funded it? The lying priest?
Will Duffy?
Duffy, yeah. By asking the question you just asked, you are insulting his intelligence. By asking
Why?
the question you just said, you're saying he's an idiot. The
I'm
opposite
not.
of that, the opposite of
No, I'm
that
not.
would be acknowledging that his mission had purpose, that the reason he felt compelled to do it himself with a community of combination of flat earthers and globers is to admit that there wasn't transparent enough evidence to a certain satisfactory degree of evidence of the 24-hour sun in Antarctica. If you felt that there already was, then you're saying that he did a fool's errand and was redundant in his
No,
mission. Are you
didn't say
calling him
that.
a
No,
redundant
no,
fool?
no. You can let me get in if you want to. I wasn't saying that's not the point I was making at all. We know that plenty of people have been down there. We know that Ailey have been going there since 1973. We know that people go down there for science. We
We're
know that people
talking about
now go for.
evidence, not
All
people.
right.
We're
Hang
talking
Hold
on.
about
on,
Let
let
me
him talk.
evidence,
Let him
not
talk
people.
finish.
uninterrupted. Well, let him talk
Oh.
uninterrupted though. Come on, let's be fair. Go ahead,
We know
Pezzik.
that tourism becoming an increasingly greater thing, and we know that people go down there for marathons and running around. Most people, when they go down there, aren't compelled to film something that takes 24 hours to film that doesn't look any different if you show it to anybody else in the world than the 24-hour film footage you can get from the north. And by the way, 7 million people live in the Arctic Circle. That's why people who've got nothing really much better to do other than set up a camera and film it from their garden, film it in the north, and there's no one in the south. It doesn't make it. It's not a leap of
The
imagination
sea
to realise that
slugs.
most people going down there, it's becoming increasingly cheaper and it's becoming increasingly easy to go down there. But most people in the past who went down there with a very specific mandate of what they were doing and didn't want to fuck around with rotating a camera around the sky for 24 hours.
You are completely ignoring a very human aspect that if there is something that is cool, an amazing, beautiful, cool phenomena of reality, humans in general, whether you're involved in online debates about the cosmology of the universe or not, it is just something that any fucking person alive has to recognize that if there is something cool, it will be filmed. And
Yeah, well,
for some reason, this very cool thing that so many people would appreciate be filmed wasn't, which is why Duffy was compelled to go and fund it himself and do it with a community of Globers and Flat Earthers. You are
yeah, it's very
disrespected.
awkward.
You are calling him an idiot
No,
if
I'm
you
not.
think that
No, I'm
Hold
not.
on, man.
you
Hold on,
really
I'm
are. You
next.
really are.
I'm
No,
next. So
you
finish
can
it up
keep
for me
saying that, but it's
because
not
I'm
true.
definitely going next, please. I try to get in.
Absolutely. Go ahead, man.
You're all set? All right. Jesus Christ. So BBC, I realize your
Don't have the
average person
Jesus Christ.
I realize your average person isn't gonna wanna go down there and fool around with a camera. They're on vacation. However, BBC did a documentary series where they went all over Earth and filmed the 24-hour sun in the north. They set up time-lapse cameras for 15 months in a desert to show how sand dunes shift over the ages. Uh, and they didn't get the one in the south. They didn't even do it. The guys that all they do is go around and film shit like this.
Right? Why would the BBC
You
want to
really
do
had to
it?
say
Why would
Jesus
the BBC?
Christ as I pass the mic to you, Jeremy. I just gotta say,
Bro,
you really had to
Jeremy's
say
a holy
Jesus
man, dude.
Christ.
Yeah, Jeremy's a holy man. He's not talking about you.
But the difference
Anyways,
is,
Paz,
Every time you pass the mic to me,
oh my
I'm gonna
god,
say
dude, just
Jesus
stop,
Christ from
man.
now on.
Just stop, dude.
That was
Tells
insulting
who's
and undeserved, man. Just like take that back if you don't mind.
You just
It's
like in
uncalled
like
for.
monologue mode or some shit. You just keep saying the same shit over and
Jesus
over
Christ's
when you
name is
do it.
not an insult.
You're being a
He is
sore
honorable.
winner, Jeremy. You're being a sore winner. I said, go ahead, Jeremy. He said, thank you, Jesus Christ. That was gay.
Dude, you're just the bad vibes, man. This is terrible.
You literally started it by me saying, go ahead, Jeremy. He said, thank you. But, Jesus Christ. That was gay, man. Be better.
All right, guys.
Yeah, that's
Well, right.
interesting
Well, I
what you
think
said,
all those
Jeremy,
points
about
were
the.
all those
All right.
points were. I mean, yeah. I mean, let me just say one thing about the 24-hour sun thing. So Jeremy is right that they didn't like film it in BBC and those kinds of things. And we were talking about that before they even took their TFE trip. Like on this live stream, I was saying a lot, like, why wouldn't there be more footage of it? And it is true that there should be, if it was more well documented. But does seem like it was like that there was a restriction from being able to get the footage of it. So that's a question as to why that would be a thing. Now, some people think, oh, there's a restriction because it's not there. Or there's another conclusion that's a restriction because there was a purposeful psyop they were running out, even to go as far as to say with the AE map, to kind of release the AE map as like a Globe 2.0 thing. And then, to try to get everyone saying there was no 24-hour sun there. Then 10 years later, because the first 24-hour sun footage came out in 2014, which is right when basically Flat Earth started becoming very active. So it is interesting. And then it's like, oh, there's no 24-hour sun. And the first videos that came out were a little bit sketchy. So I'm just saying there's another explanation as to why the BBC maybe didn't have clearance. If they purposefully were not giving us footage of it, and it was actually part of an agenda they had to release. Well, I don't necessarily think that they released Flat Earth, but it would have been a ticking time bomb, even because the information was already out there about the AE map and no 24-hour sun. So I mean that info could have been pre-planted. And it could have been authentic, like genuine, that people were starting to look into what the Earth is. So it doesn't have to be that they started it, but if they had it all planted in there anyways, that there was no 24-hour sun there, and to get everybody excited about that, and then to kind of reveal that there was. So in that way, Paz, you would have to agree that, like, yeah, there was only, from Union Glacier at least, there was only one footage that existed, that one that I found on that website. So you'd have to agree that there really was not of, I mean, the documentation of it was pretty weak overall.
There is a scarcity of it. That's true. But ultimately, the way I look at it is that, I mean, you can argue that there was a deliberate mandate not to show it to anybody as some sort of psyop. But think about, I mean, when Jeremy says they filmed the 24-hour sun in North, I mean, they only used it, if they did use it in the BBC documentary, that it would have been a stop frame animation lasting no longer than 15 seconds, because those programs just run through an absolute ton of stuff. They're not going to sit there for a half an hour showing it to you with some glorious music over the top of it. It would be a tiny snippet. And if they do show like stop frames of deserts, they're usually showing dune formations slowly moving, as the winds ripple over it and this sort of thing. They want to show you something engaging and interesting. And if I was put it in this way, if someone said, oh, we're looking to make a 15-second snippet of film from Antarctica, what do you propose we do? I know I'm going to go down there and film the sun for 24 hours. Well, and the boss would go, well, how's that any different from what it would look like if we did it in the north? And we've got tons of that already. We've got stock footage. You have to go down there and show us the penguins. They aren't only in the north. Go and show us this. Go and show us that. Get some actual footage that's different to the entire library of stuff we've got already from the north. Yeah, and frankly, it's going to be purposeful for our program. That's
big cuck excuses.
Well, it's not cuck.
Like,
how is that cuck excuses? That's the real world where people are going to spend actual money to do something useful.
That's big cuck excuses. That's the same type of opinion someone would try to portray to explain why they're like, why document a lion when we've already documented a jaguar?
No, it's not at all related.
They're both feline predators. They're both feline predators that run, chase down their prey, and eat them with their fangs.
Yeah, but you can tell
it's basically the same
difference
thing.
between all those cats, right? But you can't tell the difference between a time lapse of a 24-hour sun in the north or the south.
Exactly.
Well,
that wouldn't be the only thing highlighted in a documentary made in Antarctica, providing what Duffy spent $1 million to prove, which by the fact that he went ahead and did this already shows to everyone alive with a thinking mind, shows that there wasn't a satisfactory degree of documentation in any documentary, or just matter of fact, straightforward visual evidence of what happens in South America. Now that is peculiar, the fact that he had to go down there and document it for himself. You're either calling him an idiot, or you're admitting that for some reason we've all avoided documenting the Antarctica. And why is that the case?
Why? Because you said it yourself. He spent $1 million to get a piece of film that only ultimately, how many people are actually remotely bothered about what money he spent and what he brought back? How many people in the world?
Who's remotely bothered about documenting the fucking reproduction cycle of a snail at the bottom of the ocean? Yet there's 10 documentaries on it and none on Antarctica showing good evidence of the 24-hour sun down there.
Now
You're not making
you're
any sense,
exaggerating. Now
man.
you're exaggerating. There aren't 10 documentaries out there, all commercially sold,
There
about one
aren't
snail at the
10
bottom of the ocean.
documentaries about bottom feeder life on the bottom of the ocean. Oh god, there's so many more than 10, dude.
Yeah,
There's
I
so
know.
many more than 10.
You just said there's 10 about one snail. Why make that
That's
kind of rhetoric part of the
Well,
conversation?
let me just jump
Oh,
in.
come on, man. The snails would be one part of a documentary fully elucidated, just as the 24-hour sun could be one component of all the features of Antarctica that they could make if they were trying to make the best documentary they could about the South.
24-hour footage of the sun going
It
around
does. It doesn't have to be the main focus. It doesn't have to be the
24.
main focus. The fact is, it hasn't been even a minor or partial focus of any documentary ever made. It doesn't exist at all. That's the reason Duffy had to do
Okay.
his thing.
Okay, you'd have to let me in. 24-hour sun footage of the sun going round, a murky looking sun going around a murky ice glacier is fucking boring. Most people aren't remotely interested in this shit.
And you love snail reproduction.
All right,
Why are you doing this?
You guys, it's impossible to try to get in. Are you guys finished for a second? You're kind of going on the same point. All right, Pazza, can I just say a point? Dude, I would just say this, that if, let's say the whole big, beautiful globe was real, like say we're on the globe, dude, it just seems to me like there would have been an equal documentation to a degree of the North and the South. We would have had video of a 24-hour sun way in the earlier years. There would have also been, by these documentary makers, there also would have been even footage of like the 24-hour moon, eclipses, etc. So it just seems to me like it would be such a major part of the planet, as it were, the globe thing, that in the North and the South, and it is different in the South. The sun goes the other way. So I could just see in a documentary, they would be like, here's the 24-hour sun in the North, and you notice the way it rotates, and then they could flip, and here it is in the South. Look at the beautiful counter rotation and the beautiful way. But that's not a thing, dude. It was never documented like that, even in mainstream science, as it were. The thing about it, the way it was all rolled out, is there was like very little footage of the sun or really anything there was the first picture in Congress. It was like 1913 or something, but it's supposed to be like the southern sun in the Antarctica, but the sun's literally behind clouds. You can't even see it. And it's very vague. It's like a black and white photo, but that was technically the first one. And I know there's other documentation of it and whatnot, but I'm saying in the modern era, 70s, 80s, 90s, all of this, there was really no equal, there was a non-equal covering of that part of the earth in terms of the eclipses, 24-hour moon, 24-hour sun in the South until 2014. And then the thing is in 2014 and 15, it was not like the BBC or any official science thing like that. It was these two guys, Anthony Powell and Robert Schwartz, who both work for media companies and large movie companies and things. The one guy did the Netflix documentary. So it's like the first documentation of what the sun does on the half of the entire ball that is supposedly we're supposed to live on. And when the 24-hour sun does go the other way as well. So it is different. The very first footage of that was in 2014-15, and it was only from those two guys, these two like media associated dudes that are already in like movies and documentary productions and stuff, not even from the science field. And those are the only guys releasing footage from 2014, 2015, 2016, 2017, 2018, literally all through those years. I'm going off the top of my head, but I pretty much up until it's probably about 18 or 2019, but it might have been 18, where like an actual footage came out that wasn't from those two guys. And there's a couple others that don't show the full sun, like the military ones that only show half of it, but they're missing, 8 hours or whatever. So there's those. But it wasn't until like 18 and 19 until we started to get some more independent ones from other people. And that's when I started there were some that were being released that were more compelling, to where I was like, there's nothing really fake about that I could point out or notice about the ones that started coming out in, 18, 19, 20, and so on. And then obviously leading up to, and now other trips to the Union Glacier have been more over the last years, and then the TFE thing, which is just another trip to that same Union Glacier. So I know
And
it's
how
long-winded,
many
but I'm
peop-
just
how
saying,
many-
dude, like the rolling of that out does seem very odd that it was like these two media guys, and it wasn't until 2014 when it just should have been something like you guys were talking about documenting snails. It should have been something so foundational that we would have thorough footage of that
It's not.
that they should have been teaching in schools and shown kids, look at how the sun goes the other way in the south, you know. But it was all just absent from all of our education.
The sun
Not
goes
only
the
that,
opposite way, and
it's also a continent.
the sun goes the opposite way in the south for half the surface area of the Earth. Okay, and the other thing as well is that is that up until very very recently, all of those snippets that did exist from the 2014s onwards, I've been very vociferously told by people on here who've done forensic analysis of them are all fake or they're all from the north. So if someone had come back, if those guys hadn't come down there and MC Toon had gone down there and come back with a full 24-hour high definition time lapse, uninterrupted, super duper deluxe mechanically mounted camera, we would still be sat here and everyone would be, a lot of people here would be saying to me, "No, this is all butchered. This isn't real."
Well, that's kind of a
Does it,
that's a big broad generalization. If I could respond real
is
quick,
it?
because it is responding to what I said. Yes, because at the beginning there was like one video in 14, Anthony Powell, one video in 15. It was only those two guys. There was like one or two videos per year. And people do question those that they were fake. And if the thing I said before about the whole thing being a psyop, they may have rolled out the quote unquote, there's no 24-hour sun on the quote unquote real flat earth, the AE, along with some fake videos to even fuel the fire to make people say, well, why would they fake it if it was real? The thing that you're not including though is that there's a bunch of videos that were released in like 18, 19, 20, 21. You know, so there's many more. I'm saying there's at least like 15 or 20 at this point that are not Anthony Powell and Robert Schwartz, but those didn't come out till later. So you're kind of skipping those. Then you're also kind of making a generalization about what people said.
You're kind of alluding that there's this orchestrated pantomime of saying, "Oh, don't show them this now. Show it now. Now do it now. Let them think this. Let them think that."
And let me tell you why.
For the purposes of 100 people online who think the Earth's flat.
Let me say it's
dynamic,
not
yeah.
100 people, it's millions, but that it's not 100 people at all. It's been
Millions.
huge. It was like the number one
Millions.
search thing in like 2016. Like it was
Yes,
like the number
yeah,
one
but
search
so was
result.
planking.
So hold on,
Flat
yeah.
Earth's
So
got legs, dude. It's more
Yeah.
impactful to society than you're giving it credit for.
Yeah, and the thing is, let me just say too. So with the so I've never been to Antarctica, right? So all I can go off is evidences, video, everything else, unless if you haven't been there. And I'm just saying the reason that did go in that progression is because I'll say for me, when the first videos were released in 2014, 15, 16, I would say those were like a 1 or 2 out of 10 in terms of like they didn't have consistent frames. Like you have to have, that's what I was saying back then too. You have to have a consistent, frame 1, frame 2, frame 3 that shows the whole thing. Those failed on that alone, which already takes it down to like a 3 out of 10 right there if you don't have consistent frames. And then if there's other, let me just finish. If there's other weird things. So I'm saying for me, a scale of 0 to 10, those evidences were like at the beginning a 1 or a 2. Then some of those got better in 2017, 18. They started getting better to where for me, maybe it went up to like a 2 or a 3 in evidence, maybe even a 4. Then the ones that started coming out in 18, 19, 20, and so on, for me is like, oh, the evidence of this, it went from a 4 to a 4.5 to a 5, 5.5, 6. And then when I started looking at the Union Glacier, maybe I got to like a 5 or 6 just from that. And then when I started looking at the Union Glacier stuff, that raised it because it's a ton more footage, etc., up to like a 7 or 8. And I was going through this live on this live stream. I was saying I use that scale 0 to 10. And then with the TFE thing, it helps boost it another, up to another 1 or 2 up to 9.5, 10, whatever. I mean, I can't say it's 10 because I've never been there, but I'm just saying. So it is like a rollout in terms of the quality of evidence. Now you could say that's just by anecdotal experience, but there were much worse ones in 14, 15, 16. There were better ones in 18, 19, 20.
Were they worse
or
were they faking them? Because I mean, I thought we knew that people knew that they were faking them.
I think they faked a few at the beginning to fuel the fire, and then the ones that started coming out in the middle section were real to add more fuel and get people twisted, and then.
Well, maybe the ones that were saying in the you're saying the 2018,
the sun already arcs that way, so the sun already is symmetrical as well.
The 2018 and the 2019s and the later ones that you thought were 4 out of 10s, yeah. They
Or two.
were online in 2018 and 2019, and no one was plucking them up and going, "Yeah, this is a 4 out of 10." I was being told when I first started talking to people about this subject that they were showing me crappy stuff and going, "Oh, there's no actual good stuff." So clearly, you weren't either people weren't looking for it properly, or they'd found this and thought, "Yeah, this looks quite good, so we're not going to talk about this." That's one thing I could say in response. And secondly, people going down there and filming it. Okay, bear in mind that most people when they go down there and film it, they're not doing it to bring back irrefutable scientific evidence that the Earth, the sun, they're just taking casual time lapse stuff. They might do 8 hours and think, brilliant, look at that, it just shows everything going around. It's fantastic. Yeah, they're not interested in proving anything to anybody. They don't need to, that's not their remit. People who go down to Antarctica now, go to the South Pole, aren't going down there if they do take any photographs to bring it back to their mates and go, look, see, this is actual scientific, irrefutable proof that the South Pole exists. Most people just take it as read that it exists. So if you go down there with that mindset, you're not collecting empirically robust data, are you?
Okay.
Isn't it interesting that, hey, Gio, don't you think it's interesting that this has kind of made a resurgence to people actually looking at flat Earth? Because, like, why would they have to spend all the money if it's obvious that we're on a spinning ball? They wouldn't have to go to Antarctica and spend a ton of money to prove it to these things and then make a big media hype over it. Why are people paying attention as if this final experiment is going to decide it one way or another? I mean, there should be millions of reasons. We already know it's a spinning globe, and this wouldn't even be necessary. What's going on here? I think a lot of people that wouldn't have looked at it are looking at it now like, why are they making a big deal of this? I thought it was a ball for sure. Now they're calling this final experiment as if that decides it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Yep.
I get that
Good point,
rhetoric. I get
Isaac.
that rhetoric. That makes sense. Like a lot of people could read it that way if they wanted to. I mean,
Well, I mean, why are we reading it though? Why do you think they had to make a big deal of it? I mean, if it's obviously such a spinning ball and there's only 100 people that think the Earth is flat, then this obviously wouldn't be necessary. I know you were being
100.
hyperbolic, but
I was being hyperbolic.
I know.
It's not 100 people, but I mean, and like you say, it's come back and the main media's picked it up, and it's like the final experiment. Show a picture of Jaren's face, wah wah, and it's not. It's just
Right.
clickbait for the
Obviously intentional. Yeah,
yeah.
to try to knock flat Earth back. Now, I think my argument is they could have done a lot more to get rid of flat Earth a long time ago, and they've either been keeping it around to gaslight us, indefinitely with that, or they plan on revealing it at some point to use to their favor. That's what I've always thought. Back in 2017, I was a titty earther already. A dual pole titty earther. That's what I was calling myself. And because my boy E1 was just, he had to leave the flat Earth community thinking there has to be controlled opposition. Because every time someone brought up the southern stars, they would go, "Don't the stars go east to west?" Like that was the only thing they could say, rather than, okay, let's look at where the stars actually are. Is there actually another set of rotating stars? Well, it shouldn't have taken 10 years for that to be confirmed.
Right.
I mean, like you say, this trip could have happened earlier.
But why did it even have to happen? I mean, a bunch of good points have been brought up. Like, it's bizarre to say the least that there had to be some like final experiment. And I mean, dude, the thing is, that was like the first time that actually civilians went and actually did take good footage of the sun there. Like, it actually was a momentous thing, Pazza. That's the thing. Why is it momentous? What I'm saying is that they did a bunch of firsts that no one's done. Like, they live streamed from there. They showed the 24-hour sun, all like from that Union Glacier with like higher definition than had ever been done before. There's like a bunch of like world record things.
Part of that though, Gio, was that they hadn't finished, velcroing the repeater transmitters to the dome to have a lot, nonstop live stream coverage.
Don't tell them.
No, it's just Starlink above a planar surface.
I know.
Yeah.
I get what you're saying. They've come back with something that maybe arguably hasn't been done before. But I mean, please bear in mind that there's an astronomical observatory, a radio telescope down at the South Pole, and it's been there a long time. And people stay there over winter, and they record the night sky. They're not looking at the sun, or granted, and obviously they go down there during the winter anyway, which means it's definitely not a touristy thing. But there's people going down there all the time, and like you say, Jaron turned to one of the guys and said, "When's the sunset?" He goes, "What? What do you mean, dude?" It's like, it's a casual thing. It's a pain in the ass for the people who work down there because it makes it difficult to sleep. You lose all your sleep cycles. But it's just something that hundreds and that now increasingly more tens of thousands of people have just said, "Oh, there it is, midnight sun," just like in the north. They don't give a fuck about it.
Well,
Definitely seems like Anthony Powell stuff. I agree with you, Gio, that Anthony Powell stuff might have been fake on purpose. Sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was just saying Duffy obviously cared quite a bit to spend $500,000 and make a whole hoopla and spend over a year of his life compulsively and obsessively making videos and trying to do this whole thing that he thinks he's. I mean, he clearly cares a lot. So when you say no one cares,
I think he was given the money. I don't think it was his money at all. I don't buy that for a second.
Look at it this way. Yeah, look at it this way. If you want to know what is apart from the rhetoric of my congregation kept going on about the flat Earth and it was annoying me and distracting us from our sermons, blah blah blah. If Will Duffy is now a name, a known name. Yeah, he effectively has a presence on the internet and he's a businessman. Who go figure.
What was the point you were going to make?
What do you mean, go figure?
Well,
it's interesting that the other pastors that might have been involved in setting it up for this thing too. The whole thing where they had that pastor versus pastor flat Earth debate. I think it was the flat Earth pastor that was saying, "Well, the one thing that would prove it is if we went down and got a 24-hour sun, then you would debunk me." And there's a clip of him saying that as if like, "Oh, okay, now we know what's coming." All the pastors are in on it.
Was that the
that was a setup beforehand? I'm not saying for sure. I'm saying that it does seem suspicious that was like the one thing at the end of their debate that he said would prove it, which doesn't prove it, at all. But he put it out there as if you want to debunk me, you can show this 24-hour sun, and then all of a sudden another pastor comes along to show us the 24-hour sun.
Well, maybe the pastor. I mean, like you say, if it doesn't prove it, then it wouldn't be that in itself wouldn't be purposeful.
It doesn't prove anything.
I wouldn't spend $1 million.
It just led us to a dual pole flat Earth. I've thought it's a dual pole flat Earth since 2017. That the guy that I was talking to, E1, I mean, he wasn't surprised at all. There was 24-hour sun. He was surprised that it lasted this long. He's surprised that it lasted this long. That people haven't figured out that's one of the obvious things about the dual pole flat Earth. There's tons of other reasons that the dual pole flat Earth is the only thing that works.
Good luck mapping that. Good luck drawing a map of that.
Already been done. Already been figured out.
It's already all
don't
done.
Don't show us the Thomson's equidistance projection.
problem with
That's not going to work.
No, it's a little different than that. A little different.
Yeah, I mean, I posted, I did these in Paint or whatever. I took some of these, but Dave, you've probably seen these. I made that one, which is funny. I just didn't paint the other. I made this one, which has it all on it, which is kind of ridiculous. I put the stars at 24-hour sun, but I mean, yeah, that's what the sky does. It's a stereographic projection of a sphere. I mean, the Globers are going to say it is a sphere, light years away stars, but that's what's above the planar surface. It's an electric field, so it would be a stereographic. That's what the celestial sphere would be. Is a stereographic projection of spherical coordinates above a planar surface. They're spherical coordinates, but it's a stereographic projection.
You've got
and they realized at one point, well, because we have these two poles, it lends itself to that trick. Like, oh, we can make them think it's a ball because we got the two poles, and we can just say it's like, one big tit rather than two tits.
But the equator is not a continuous line.
Yeah, Dave, they put the tits on. They match the tits together at the equator, so you have the upper hemisphere, the lower hemisphere. But on planar, it just puts them on a plane.
They took one tit and put it on the back of another tit. Right. That's not how tits are.
In those diagrams, the equator is not
like. Come on, tits have a certain way of working.
The equator is not a continuous line. So you can keep drawing that to you blue in the face. No one's going to buy it.
It's not about buying it, dude. It's about what is actually going on. It's not about getting people to buy anything. It's about what actually is going on. We know it's not moving. We know it's flat. We know it's a stationary level Earth, bro. Get over it. That part's over. Now we got to figure out how the sky works and all that. But it's already over. We know we're not moving. We know it's not fucking a ball. So that part's way over for people that are really looking into it. Sorry,
you
bro.
steamroller.
We'll just keep saying random
No,
shit.
it's just the truth.
Yeah, that's the truth. Random shit.
Well, like I say, when
What
I
are you
say,
talking about? I'm not saying random shit.
when I
Okay, now
say
the
no one's
Glover.
buying it, if it's not,
Okay, no one's
if
trying to
it's
get in.
not
I'm not trying to get in.
demonstrative of a,
I'm just trying to fucking let's all fucking talk at the same time.
Well, Q-Up, if you want
There's
to get
not
in,
one thing demonstrative about the
Let me
ball. The ball's been
perspective
debunked in
turn it, then
every
he's gonna say random shit about flat
possible
Earth.
way.
no,
I don't know what you're saying, Q-Up. Go ahead.
Yeah, you're just
Because
interrupting.
you're
But
not
just wait till
fucking
he's done.
shutting up to listen. Do you not talk and hear at the same
Go
time?
ahead.
Like, are your other senses turn off when you
I know.
start
I
to
heard
talk?
you talking in the background. Yeah, I can hardly hear you. Go ahead and say what you're trying to say. Go ahead.
He wasn't really monologuing. He was just kind of giving a passionate string of ideas. But it's all good. Q-Up, go ahead. You could just wait till he was done, then you could have gone. But it's all good.
Well, I'm
We
trying
heard
to
him.
I was
respond to
bantering
something.
with Pazza. Sorry.
I mean, I actually agree. Yeah, that's the thing. I mean, Paz is trying to be like, but it's a ball. But it's like, what he's saying is that for those of us that already know it's not a ball, it's not really.
I didn't say that, did I?
We want to know.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't say that at all. You're pretending I said that. I said on this projection, all these projections I see, all these maps that show two poles, the equator isn't a continuous line. And when I say buy it, I mean if it's not demonstrable that it's a continuous line, then it's not worth its salt.
Well, have you confirmed that the equator is a continuous line?
Yes, because the sun tracks the equinox over the equator, and we know the equator where the equator goes.
Yeah, but you
It
haven't
doesn't
been out in
Pac-Man from one realm to another.
You haven't been out in the
No,
Pacific.
no Pac-Man necessary.
See it continuous. Yeah, I don't think a Pac-Man is needed either.
Oh, I've got to travel the entire equator to make sure the equator is one continuous straight line now, have I?
Well, I'm just.
Well, why would you assume you're on a ball? I mean, the ball doesn't work, so you have to figure it out somehow, right? It's not a ball. We're not moving. That's over.
You can say the ball doesn't work, but I mean, the majority of people would beg to
Completely,
differ, wouldn't they?
emphatically. I don't care what they think any longer because they don't have any points that actually make any sense.
Okay, so I mean, all the people that map it and study it in depth all think it's one shape.
There's no study in depth. You know the ball's fake, dude. It's not a ball. It's not moving. Get over it. Sorry,
Well,
I'm being weird.
That's fine. You can do that. You can do that. If you can take that sentiment into conversation. But if it's about convincing
what I
people,
think.
that's just not going to go. It's not going to
I
fly.
don't care about
You just
convincing anyone.
No.
You keep talking about
Who
convincing.
cares to convince somebody?
Yeah, I don't think anyone's in here is talking about that. I mean, it's about getting to what the truth is. The truth will just shine on its own. So, if we're able to discover true things about this realm that are all different than what we're being told, then you're not gonna have to you don't have to proselytize it. It just will. It's just a matter of it getting out and people knowing what the truth is. So you don't have to convince a bunch of people of something. We're talking about what actually the truth is. So if the Earth is not curving and doesn't have motion and it's planar and we see the two poles in the sky, that's the discussion. What are we actually dealing with? If you just think it's a globe, that's cool. You can think it's a globe, but we're obviously talking about, I mean, I know you want to debate and tell. I mean, I guess you're trying to convince people it's a globe is what's happening, basically. And you're saying that we're trying to convince them of something which we're not. So maybe you're projecting, with all due respect.
Well, I'm doing exactly what we're talking from different positions. You're now accusing me of trying to convince other people and telling me at the same time you're using exactly the same counter rhetoric that you're not doing what I'm doing. I mean, what's the point in that?
Well, you said the equator is not a continuous straight line on the dual pole because it's a straight line across, and then you said good luck trying to convince people of that, and that's where.
Well, what I mean is, no
one was talking about convincing.
All right, I'll take
about
that
what
back.
the actual truth is and how the sky works over.
I'll take that statement back. But what I mean is, when I said that, with the underlying truth of that is okay, right? Is it's not representative of what we know about the equator.
Well, then my next question was, do you know what happens at the equator in the middle of the Pacific? Because that's where the difference would be. That's why I asked that. And I know what the equator does in Ecuador and in South Africa. That's fine. It rises east and southwest. But the differentiation on the dual pole is what happens deep in the equatorial region of the Pacific Ocean. And that's where there would be either an anomaly or something that is being hidden from us or something involved with that. And that's why I was asking, to really falsify it, you would have to know that part. To know it's a continuous, to know what it is.
What about what's wrong with the Atlantic?
That's not where the shift would be. The split is in the Pacific. Like, a dual pole layout.
Where are you getting that from? You just made that up.
No, a dual pole, like here, if I post like here, this one that I put the yellow circles on, showing the paths of the months 6 months apart. The Atlantic is not really in contradiction. That's just between the continents. The issue is the Pacific, like in terms of it being continuous, going around a ball versus something else being the case on a planar surface, because the sky makes the two rotations in the straight at the equator. So, and you have
That's
GPs
another
and
azimuthal projection. That's a Thomson
I don't know what you
equatorial
mean, but
projection. Centered
I don't know
over the Greenwich meridian. You can center that over a line of longitude that runs down the spine of North America, and then the bits on the outside will be land.
Okay, I'm just telling you what's. It is. That's fine. We're talking about the map layout and the sky, because like the sky matches with this layout in terms of planar. We know what the globe says, so I mean that's fine. But if you think it's a globe, you can go on and think it's a globe. But if it's not a globe, then if you're questing for truth, then you need to still keep hiking up the mountain like we all do.
I think you know what. Besides the globe makes sense with that sky, the concave. We should all go concave, dude.
Concave doesn't make any sense
No, concave is not at
Dave,
all.
what do you think of those? What do you think of those distances I threw on that one? The north, south, east one, like 62-10, and then 12 on each half. Like
I hope someone
I don't know.
knows
What do you
sarcasm.
think of that? Do you think those distances?
I'll have to look at it here. I don't know. You
Does
know.
anyone here understand sarcasm?
What'd you say, Q?
Oh, okay. Yeah, I got your sarcasm, but we can hardly hear you cut you off. That's why before I wasn't aware you were talking. So you're a little bit low and. But I think that Titty Earth is. I mean, for every guy in here, you know, I mean, just take away your bias, and if it does turn out to be Titty Earth, then hey, you know,
I'm gonna ask.
what guy's not down for that?
Well, at least
Come on, Mother Earth's got to have some tits, right?
At least Geo, now we've in your latest projections, we've got Antarctica as an island and not an ice wall around the outside in which the firmament sits. So another conversation opener there.
Wait, say it again.
At least in the projection you put up at 3 minutes past the hour, we've got Antarctica as an island now, a continent.
Yes.
Oh yeah.
What we don't now have is a convenient ice wall around the outside, keeping the ocean in which the firmament rests. So there's another conversation starter.
There still could be.
No way.
We just don't know. We can't get out that far. There could be definitely still ice surrounding us. It doesn't have to be Antarctica. The idea that it was Antarctica to begin with was always insane to me. I thought that is ridiculous. How are they going to cover up all that land as this little place at the bottom of the ball? It doesn't make any sense that they could just like. It'd be easily provable that Antarctica doesn't surround us. Now there could be lots of ice around us. We just can't get that far. We're not allowed that far or something.
On your map, the ice wall in question runs down the middle of the Pacific. Yeah, goes, doesn't it? There's an ice wall down.
You're saying the middle of the Pacific. You see, though, Pezzo, the way it would work, like it would have to be some kind of deception or agreement that if you're going to go from west to east, that you either go around the top or around the bottom. Whichever way you're headed, you go around the bottom, or it's just like going across the blue side of the ball. When they show us the globe, it's just one big side of blue. And if you're going across that whole big blue area, you could be going around the top or around the bottom just as easy. You don't have to go around the ball to get there.
West to east on the equator is the straight line through the middle. It's not going around the outside. Around the outside is not a
No, there is no outside because we're not on a ball. We already know we're not on a ball, so you have to get over that. I don't know how to break it to you.
No. Look, let's talk about this projection that he put up at 3 minutes past the hour and stop referring to something I'm not talking about.
All right.
I thought you said it has to go around the ball.
Paz, this is what. Okay, essentially, the regular AE map makes the North Pole the center, and obviously everything equidistant from that. Therefore, it makes Antarctica the ring around the outside with the coordinates. With these layouts, which by the way, if you look at the list of map projections Wikipedia page, like over half of them are this general layout. Of course, the Mercator, even the square map is similar to this, where you just have, there it is, you have your North America, you have your South America, you have your Europe, Asia, all that, Africa, and then, well, your Asia going down over to Australia. So like it's right there. And like he's like the globe, when you look on Google Earth, half of the ball is just the Pacific Oceans. All I call it the blue side of the ball, like the dark side of the moon. So half of the globe Earth is the Pacific Ocean. What this layout does is it's an equal area it's an azimuthal equal area projection, which is pulled from the equator. So meaning the equator is the center line, which then it maintains Antarctica as a continent on the South Pole, as it were. It maintains the North area, North Pole. And then it puts the Pacific Ocean, the way that the coordinates shift, it makes the Pacific Ocean the ring around the outside. So again, on the globe, the Pacific Ocean is the blue side of the ball. Well, on this, the Pacific Ocean is the massive, just like it's half of the ball, it's the massive ring around the outside. And what he's saying is that if you were to go from like Punta Arenas, let's say, and you were to circumnavigate Antarctica, you would go down on that southern circuit, basically. Now, if you went on the northern, like up and off of like Mexico, and you would go up around the northern circuit. Now, when you get to the equator, yes, there is that question. If you were to travel straight west, what would happen? There is the one idea that there's an ice wall around this whole thing. So even though it's the Pacific Ocean around the side, there could even be an ice container of some sort or an ice shore that's not Antarctica. That's one a possibility as well. But the bottom line is that it makes the Pacific Ocean the ring around the outside. And he's just saying if you're at the equator, if you're north of the equator, you would circumnavigate around the north with your compass, with your everything, along with the way the stars do. And then if you're a little south of it, you end up circuiting around south. That's what he's.
So how does a flight from Chile to Tokyo work?
Well, hold on. Let's not jump to flights. That was to Pazza. I was trying
Same
to.
way. Same exact thing. Same way, though. They would just go north or south the same way. You would just fly.
What do you mean the same
as
way?
if you're going across the blue side of the ball. You don't have to actually go across this fake blue side of the ball. You just go across, up and around because we already know it's level. We already know we're not moving.
So they're going to go up
there has
the
to be a
coast?
way to get there. We're not on a ball and we're not moving, so we have to figure it out from there. The flight paths definitely aren't necessarily what they're telling us as well. We already
embarrassing, dude. I hope nobody that I told to listen to this live stream sometimes and I'm on it like is listening right now because it's embarrassing that you guys are defending this bullshit.
Well, it's embarrassing. You still think it's an AE map and you think that the fucking TFE is fake because that is fucking wrong, bro. Get over it.
Why? Because you love Witsit or something?
This alternative azimuthal projection creates as many problems as it solves in the first one.
Yeah, because the sun is in.
All right, name the problem.
When look at the equator line. That line is east-west, and it gets to the edge on one side, and it suddenly magically appears on the other side. It's the convenient.
There's no counterclockwise, clockwise. East and west are actually cardinal directions, so are north and south. There's actually two poles. East and west are a real thing, and you don't go around the outside. You just go above and around.
Please,
you don't have to go around the back of the ball. That's all I'm saying. Go ahead. I'm just saying east and west aren't a problem, as far as I can tell.
No. The one that Geo put up at 303, we put the two circle lines of what I presume are the tropics, the transit of the sun in the GP of the sun over the tropics. Yeah, the straight line across the middle is the equator. That's the equator.
Okay.
It gets to one end, and then it doesn't. It's not a continuous line on the surface. The sun's GP doesn't suddenly leap several thousand miles and in a single instance in the middle of the day.
No, did you see the ones that I put? Somebody else posted these a while back, and it's a good explanation of how the sun moves. The ones that are like on lined paper above those projections that Geo put. It says north and south. So the sun. On September 20th, it's going directly west through the middle, right? And then it curves around down south and goes the opposite way, just like we observed with the 24-hour sun. It goes around there. And for a couple days, you can see the 24-hour sun, even though it may have 24-hour sunlight longer than that. But it starts circling it back around, and it circles out too far to see eventually. And there's only a few days. That's why they had to go at certain days to see the 24-hour sun down there, which the globe side agrees with. There's only certain days you can see it.
But on the two equinoxes, it's going along in that straight line. It's not going in a loop anywhere else.
So they saw it or whatever. There's other people that also document. There's tons of footage. Dude, I wasn't since 2017. Dude, since 2017, I've known it's a 24-hour sun down there. The guy that I was like closest to talking to for hours and hours and hours back in 2017 agreed. I mean, thought there must be controlled opposition in flat Earth. To convince people that it's just an AE map and that's the answer to everything, and you're still convinced of it, that's fine if you want to be convinced of it, but it doesn't work, bro. It never did.
So I don't have a problem with the stars Pac-Manning because the stars are whatever they are. That like it could be.
Why does it need to Pac-Man? There's no Pac-Manning.
There's no problem. But so are people Pac-Manning when they go west and east on the equator?
There's no Pac-Man. the dual pole flat Earth does not require Pac-Man. It's a straw man of the dual pole. I don't know why anyone thinks it has to be a Pac-Man.
I don't.
Stars just go around it like one pole and around the other pole.
You're ignoring how long these journeys would take. And like someone said, a flight from somewhere on the west coast of America to the other side is ridiculously disproportionately long compared to a flight across the Atlantic.
It'd be same as going across the blue side of the ball. It'd be the same distance as going across the blue side of the ball. You're just going up and around rather than across that whole big blue ball side.
Come on.
No, it wouldn't. Do you really think that?
The same distance.
How
that
so?
Is the
well, regardless of that, the flight. If the deception is really that big, right, that they've convinced everybody that on a spinning ball, there may be some things like flight paths that they make seem one way, and they're not actually that way to try to reify the ball. You'd have to agree.
You can have a compass.
Those things would be part of it.
Let's just touch on this topic really quick because you just made the claim that they're the same distance, right? Whereas in one hand, on this flat model, you have to make the entire journey over the distance of America to like Africa to Africa. It is literally going across the entire world rather than a third of the world on the globe. And you're going to stick with that answer.
You know the blue side of the ball? You know what we mean when we say the blue side of the ball?
Yeah, a third of the world.
When you turn the globe, it's like half the world is just blue ocean. That's all the Pacific Ocean is. So if you're going from California to Japan, you'd have to go across that distance anyway.
No, you wouldn't. This is a different distance, though.
I just posted the blue side.
Well,
because not only is it half, but you're also having to make. Okay, listen. We could just do the math right here, and we can just show you just like why your logic is flawed here on this. That it's the same distance.
Flight paths, and you couldn't even land a plane. So don't talk to me about planes. You couldn't even land a plane if the ball's spinning with the tangential gradient, bro. So I'm not going to even entertain your flight path argument like that makes any difference. You wouldn't even be able to land. So
this is just a non sequitur to you not being able to visualize distances.
You can think that. I don't care what you think, actually.
Yeah, how can half the ball be blue? Come on. Visualization?
Yeah, I mean the thing is like when the ball is basically like those. See, like I said, like more than half the map projections that exist are like the one we're talking about, the dual pole type layout. Because even the Mercator one, like I said, you've got there it is, all your continents right on your wall there in school. So I know the Mercator's different; it's like a square situation, and the way they claim that is. But I'm just saying most of them are like this, and the globe Earth is basically the same thing. It's just half of the ball is these things: North America, South America. It's half the ball because the other half is all blue. So at the end of the day, there would have to be something going on, like a Pacific Rim anomaly or something. Like there would have to be something in the Pacific Ocean that is either being restricted of full access of being able to go across it where you would need to. Like
you're skipping over, Gio. You're skipping over the fact that there is islands all over that ocean that people live, like Micronesia and Tahiti and a whole bunch of other places like that scattered across
Fiji, Togo, fucking Hawaii,
Midway,
Virgin Islands.
I mean, and let's not forget, that if you're going to draw a line down the middle of that, okay, right? Alaska is in one half of the Pacific, and in the other half, isn't it? On the same longitudinal line.
Where do all
now the debates are a little bit more fair between flat Earth and globe. If it's going to be like this, because now globers have like something to point out that doesn't make sense. Finally, right? You guys have.
We've had things that don't make sense all the time.
No, we have things that don't make sense. Now you guys finally have things that don't make sense.
The AE map is a huge. So many problems with it. Like, how do the stars go straight on an AE map at the equator?
Yeah,
there's not even an east and west, right? You have to go counterclockwise or clockwise. If the AE map's right, then it's just there was never a real true east or a true west. It's just counterclockwise or clockwise.
You within your perspective dome. We don't know how far they're traveling straight for. Things appear to go straight in the sky, and they're turning eventually.
Well, they're all projections of the graticule as well, so we have to take that into account. So they tricked everybody into thinking it's a ball with the GPS system connected to this graticule system that cheated it with the gravitational potential, and the plumb bobs with their fingers on it saying that the mountain made it deviate and all those things. We figured that out, right? The Royal Society made it like illegal to try to make any other maps. But even stellarium shows the stars converging and diverging just the way the dual pole does. And you can't just have like
What?
you can't just have like a celestial equator that follows you, because those are real places over land that
What?
is like solid. That's like where they are. It's
What's
not
the
like
leap
the
that so much
moon
people have
following you
gone
in a
to
car.
stellarium? Like it's just the truth of
You
the
can't
sky.
think of it that way, at least in my opinion. You could, I mean, if you're right, Qop, then I hope you have some answers for all those other things we're talking about. That doesn't seem like anybody does.
Here we go. I just did like a quick little search. The distance it would take to fly from, was it Los Angeles to Tokyo, is less than 5,500 miles. So you're not going over half the globe. It's not even a fourth of it.
Well, I don't want to. Is Dave still in here? Or did you just drop? Okay. I was just gonna say. I mean, for myself, I'm not claiming that that is the map. We're talking about the layouts in general, in terms of Antarctica as a continent. And I forgot how we even got started on this. Oh, I guess we're talking about a bunch of stuff, but we're talking about, yeah, everything related. But I'm just saying, I wouldn't claim that that is like the exact layout of the land. So to start trying to crunch numbers, I don't know who you'd be trying to debate that to. I don't think Dave's saying that either. New perspective. I don't think he's claiming that's the exact layout.
Well, there's no layout that you could have that would make flight paths work in any kind of meaningful sense.
Well,
On a flat plane.
Flight
Well, I
path
think there's
from
already a
Japan.
deception going on in the flight industry, the military-industrial complex, to how they're orchestrating that in addition to GPS. So that wouldn't be surprising to me that what they sell to the public is not exactly what is actually occurring, and that there would have to be a deception. If they're deceiving us with the shape of the Earth is, I don't think anyone would even argue this, that there would have to be a deception in the GPS
show
and the
it
flight
anyway.
system if they're lying to us about what the Earth is. So
Then one
that's
would just simply
obvious.
have to bring like a gyro compass to test the headings of the plane, and that'd be the simplest way.
Yeah, you simply need a globe and a piece of string to verify flight paths.
Yeah,
That's all
true.
you need.
Yeah.
True.
But Flight Tracker actually shows those flights from Japan to LA or San Diego coming down the whole coast of California. No, big arc.
Yeah,
And in
that depends on your projection. Yeah, on a Mercator projection, it does that.
that's on like a Google Earth type of thing, Flight Tracker.
Well, if you take Chief Squidog's picture and push it
Yeah,
to
this
the Philippines from the
is
south,
pretty much
it does
exactly
look
what
like
it
an arc.
does.
Yeah,
Yeah,
you have it
it
there,
does.
Squidog, or do I-
Even I'll post. Look here. Look, it makes just total sense.
Oh, I've seen it. I don't. You guys can
Oh,
say
don't
whatever.
worry. I'll show you right here. We can all see it again.
This is the projection that's the
Here you
projection that
go.
makes it look like a straight line.
Here's the overlay of Google Earth showing that plane that plane would be riding up the coast of California.
And then so they don't land in Alaska when they come from Hawaii
Yes.
on an emergency.
No, I'm talking
not
about how they're going from
Hawaii.
like California to like Japan. I can do Alaska if you want me to do Alaska.
No, what he's saying is from Tokyo that they'll divert into Alaska rather than Hawaii because they're much closer to Alaska than they are Hawaii.
I'm actually saying Hawaii, but
Um,
either way,
if they're going from Hawaii to California, they'll continue on the way or go back. There's nothing in between those two.
Yeah, I think he might be talking about like some of the flights that will go to Honolulu and swap some people out and then go to Japan.
Sure, it makes.
But there are direct flights from California to Japan. They happen every day, and they seem to follow this line pretty damn well.
Well, then that line is the thing, and it's funny that it's just a line on a projection. So
this is a line on a globe.
Qop.
This is the Great Circle Route over a globe. That's correct.
Okay, I don't know who you guys are. There's not really a debate right now, is there? I mean, no one's really defending any particular map right now. Qop, can I just ask you something?
It's certainly not the dog shit that was posted in here supposed to be even remotely close to reality, right?
Qop, are you at your mic? Check. All right, so would you agree with me that in the north, with the stars all going around Polaris, that if you've heard my example of this, but if you freeze frame the sky, meaning the stars are not moving, you can adjust your clock by 4 minutes every night if you want this exact same positions of stars, and you were to do that, would you agree that you could put like a flag in the ground at the GP of every star going around Polaris? So you would end up with like a bunch of different flags, different colors, numbers on them, whatever. They'd be the GPs of all those stars, and that they would make a huge spiral around the North Pole, just like the stars. Like the flags on the ground would be a huge spiral around the North Pole. Like let's just say the AE map. Do you think that would be the case?
Oh yeah.
Okay, so if you can also do that in the South, like you can put flags in the ground all going around the South Pole, how could it be anything other than a two-pole flat Earth?
What?
Well,
I mean, it could be a globe, of course, but
I'm not convinced on Sigma Octantis as like a. So I looked up. I have to do more research, but I haven't like What's funny is like the first one I found on YouTube was from what's her name, Trouble. You know, she doesn't shut the fuck up about Sigma Octantis. It's the only reason I know the name so well. It's because she said it so many fucking times. And her video was pretty low quality. And I don't know. I haven't seen anything as convincing as like the ones for Polaris.
Well, like this picture right here. Hold on, we're not really doing the globe. Just chill for a second. We don't need the globe right now. I'm just asking him this real quick. Q-Up, the one I just posted. I mean, do you think that's a legit time lapse of the stars? I mean, there's many others, but that's from New Zealand. So I'm just saying, like the stars do a whole rotation in the south. It's really undeniable. You can just go to the equator and you can see half of it. You know, even you can even see part of it from Florida. Actually, you can see part of the southern rotation. But if you go to the equator, you can completely see half the sky is the northern, half the southern. Then if you start going more and more south, that huge, massive southern rotation gets higher in the sky. So I'm just saying, there's GPs of all those stars. Just like I went through the one in the North Pole, around the North Pole. So that's my point. Like, there's no way that this could be circuiting around. Like if that followed you, like the two gears thing that Funny mentioned earlier, if like there was an outer gear of that southern and it followed you around the rim, then there would not be consistent places where you would put those flags for the GP. It would be moving, and you'd have like thousands of GPs.
Why is it always from Australia? That's why I tried to find them in like South America and Africa, and I can only find them in Australia.
Australia's an English-speaking country, as opposed to say South Africa or Brazil or something.
Okay.
Well, I think there's ones from everywhere. And this one's from Argentina. You want to see this one?
Yeah, a lot of the big astronomies are in up high up in the Andes and Chile.
Yeah.
Well, I meant that there was no like actual videos. There's no time-lapse videos from anywhere other than Australia. This is pretty.
This one's from
quality.
Peru.
This is during the day. Wait, this is during the day. What? What is this?
I'm just saying, this one's from Chile.
Yeah, but wait, what is? Why? There's no star trails during the day. Why is there? What is this? This is definitely. Is this fake? Like, am I reading?
That's just over the combined image, but like star
so
trails.
Fake. So fake.
It's a long exposure. If you're in a bright area, it can look like it's very bright outside, even though it's not.
What?
I mean, like moonlight. You know?
Are you saying the daytime is fake, but the star trails are real? That's funny as fuck. Anyone know?
One of the problems, Geo, that you maybe haven't considered with this two-pole flat Earth is that you have stars that are circumpolar stars in the southern hemisphere, like Canopus, which is at so negative 52 or 52 south latitude. That's a star that's visible. You know, when it's on the other side of Antarctica on that dual pole flat Earth map, that means that nobody from any of the continents would be able to see it because it would be the furthest from all of them, right? That wouldn't work.
Well, I don't think we're talking line of sight.
Well, and why is this one different colors? Who the fuck is seeing different star colors?
Dude, there's tons of them from South America, from South Africa. Like
they're doing
they have,
stuff.
Observatories from there. That one's from the Las Campanas Observatory. That second one. The first one is from Ignacio Falls, Misiones Province, Argentina. And yeah, time lapses can look like that because the camera can pick up a lot of light. Depends on when you do it though, what time of the, like either at dusk or sunrise, and where there's a transition. I'm just saying there's tons of them, dude, of star trails in South America. You can go to the equator and just see the star trails. So, I mean, you can see the southern rotation.
Damn, New Perspective is pushing this hard already. Like, it's weird that all the Ether people just fucking change models. Just like, Whitsitt fucking says he saw it. He fucking faked his breath, but who cares? He fucking dual pole fucking flatter. Let's change his map.
I don't want to speak for anyone, but as far as I know, the Ethers folks are not actually all dual pole in any way. So as far as I know, I'm not going to say for people, but New Perspective is like one. He's had. I'm just saying the Ether cosmology guys are not quote unquote all dual pole. So if you're saying that, it's just false.
So I've been away from a week. Did Whitsitt say something this past week?
No, but I know you would want to know. What was the thing Jake said though?
It sounds like he did something though.
Sounds like you and QOP are huge fans of Whitsitt and bring him up every day for some reason. But Jake, what was the point you said? That's what's happening. It's just QOP and you.
Well, if you look at that.
Hello?
I mean,
Hello?
QOP, I thought the AE map is useful. Yeah, Jake, you cut out. The AE map is useful in the north as a certain blueprint, but
as I say, QOP,
there's always the issue with the southern stars on it that I always knew was there, and the 24-hour sun. But yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, since 2017, I've been a Titty Earther QOP. It had nothing to do with like being an Ether guy. Those guys aren't dual pole at all, by the way, just to let you know. I've been saying it's dual pole since 2017.
It's just,
Titty Earth, man. Gotta get behind it. Titty Earth QOP. You don't like tits? Come on. You like tits.
Are you like a salesman for this model now?
No, I don't care. I really don't care. You can have your AE map, and if you're right, you're right. I hope the truth is found out. That's all I care about.
This dual pole map is an AE projection. It's just centered at 0, or somewhere over Africa rather than the North Pole. It's still an AE projection. It has all the poles of an AE projection.
Well, yeah, you can use the graticule to make a projection of all the land masses the way that they had it set up with the graticule, the way they sheeted it to make it seem like a ball, and then you could just transform the ball into like a distorted map of any sort. But if the truth is that it was already a dual pole, and they realized that they could sell the dual pole as a ball because somehow they convinced people that the magnetic north and south had to be on top of the bottom of a ball in the empty space thing that has no backing to it whatsoever. There's no proof of that. Well, it's already been way debunked, NASA show. I'm not going to talk
about it. Way debunked.
You're just going to keep saying way debunked. Yeah. We're not spinning, bro. We're not spinning. There's no curvature. It's already over. Sorry.
We are spinning. There is curvature. You can prove both of them.
Bombardier measurement.
In Google Earth.
The magnetic poles. The magnetic poles really are sort of minor things. What everyone's concerned about is the true north and true south where the rotation occurs.
Yeah, we even know that the north and south pole move. The magnetic ones, at least.
Well, the real ones do too, but much slower.
Yes, occasionally.
Yeah, but what he said there, New Perspective. He dropped out again. Sometimes he pops in and pops out quickly. But the thing is, what he was just saying there is that if you have a two-pole planar Earth, you have like the AE map of the north, basically, and then the AE map of the south, which is why he was calling it like Titty Earth. But if you have like two AEs, that would be equivalent to the two hemispheres of the globe. And that would be how they could sell a globe with an actual planar Earth. And if the sky hits the two poles, that would be like your north pole of the globe and the south pole of the globe. Even though it is on a planar surface, it's really the only way they could have sold the globe. If it really was an AE, by the way, they're different. Azimuthal equidistant is the AE map, but an azimuthal equal area is the kind of dual pole ones. They're equal area from the center, the equator, and they're equal north and south, which is exactly what we see in terms of the northern and southern quote unquote hemispheres, which is why the globe has the radius value in the two hemispheres. So it's just how you can convert those and how they can sell a globe when you actually have the two poles in the sky and sell that as a celestial sphere that surrounds an actual curved Earth. Whereas with the AE, if it was one pole with all the stars going on, you wouldn't have been able to make a globe out of it in the first place. And it doesn't match with what the sky does.
What?
It's straight at the equator and then the southern rotation.
And Google Earth
That's why I was asking QOP, like if you put consistent flags in the ground at all those GPs, there's just no way to make it work on an AE.
Maybe it's just
So
it's just a globe then.
So if the Earth is if the Earth is two AE projections back to back, what happens to people at the equator then?
I also have a question. NASA Shield. I agree with NASA Shield. This is weird. Weird times.
Well, what happens to these stars?
Exactly what we would predict on a globe Earth.
Yeah, the only way to explain everything.
Or concave. No Pac-Man Earth on the concave.
That's not
100% issue on the concave.
Let's not go into concave.
Contained, yo. Flat Earthers, concave is contained. You got a container at least. Keep that argument.
Concave has no argument as to how I see the stars.
Well, you don't need. This is what like New Perspective and others were describing. You don't need Pac-Man. So, for example, when you have this right here, this is it's been referred to as the electric Coriolis effect, which is kind of a fun name for it. I don't know if that's an official name, but you see how here you have there's a magnet underneath this bowl of water. It's got the two electrical nodal points attached to the conductors that are put into the water, and then there's like little pieces of pepper that they sprinkled on there, little iron filing pepper things, and then they turned on the electrical field, and you get the two rotations. So those pepper at the middle look like they're going straight, but what happens to them? Well, they don't just run into the wall. They don't run into the top side of the bucket and pop around the south side of the bucket. They're rotating. They're in a toroidal field. They're in an actual electric field lines. So nothing is Pac-Manning with two things rotating. So over a planar surface, this is flat water, nothing's Pac-Manning, and you have two rotations. Therefore, Pac-Man's not required. It's just two rotations, and the pepper either they go up to the one side around, or they go around the other side. So like this picture of the star trails from the equator, yeah, you're just zoomed into one little part of it. So it's like the pepper thing. If you were just zoomed into one little portion, you're only seeing a portion. If you were to continue following, yeah, on the globe they claim they go straight around, but on a two-pole planar, they would have to go in the northern region around the northern AE or the southern AE region.
Are you serious, Clark?
Yeah, the problem is though, when they look at a car, when you have people like in South America, South Africa, and Australia, look due south, they can still see the same, grouping of stars. How would that work on this, on any of these proposed projections that you posted here, Gio? They'd be looking in different directions. Right?
Precisely.
Yeah, I'm just kind of I was more like talking to Q up about that. If you want to, I guess he left though, so I was sending a message real quick. So do you want to re-say that, or because I was actually like referring to Q up and I was talking about that, but he bounced. He often does just leaves quick and comes back quick sometimes. So anyways, what were you saying? I'll shift gears if you're asking me something or whatever next point. I was just saying you don't need a Pac-Man effect for two poles over a planar Earth, and I'm just showing that in that demonstration I just showed that shows the two rotations. None of those pieces of pepper, iron flake things are Pac-Manning. There's no Pac-Man needed. But there would be a separation in the sky that would happen, and some people claim that exists in the Pacific Ocean. So because there would have to be
what you had to do though to make sure, that when people in these different locations look at the cardinal direction north or south to see the same direction of the pole, so the North Celestial Pole and the South Celestial Pole, the two titties in this flat Earth model, is you've had to completely twist all the continents into shapes with cardinal directions that we know are not actually correct. That's why they're completely distorted. Like, look at the positioning of North and South America. They're completely curved like a C.
Yeah, that's if you're looking at one particular,
Look at
like I said,
Australia.
there's numerous. Well, let me respond real quick. So there's numerous projections. Like I said, if you look at the list of map projections on Wikipedia, like over half of them have this general layout, and there's a bunch of variations. Some of them have Australia distorted. Some of them have Australia actually not looking very distorted, looking similar to the globe. There's all kinds of variations on them. So yeah, I'm not claiming some kind of exact map or exactly where the continents are laid out, but we're just talking about the stars, the two poles, and how it would work over planar surface in general. So yeah, there's a
And like
bunch.
Sydney to Los Angeles, how would that flight work? You'd be crossing over Africa, right?
And then that's a whole nother argument about the plane flight system. So like I said, I mean, from the simple perspective that if they're deceiving us about what the Earth is, then there would be some level of deception within the flight system. So some of these flights might run in different paths. You're just
Because
assuming it would go
here's the
over on
problem,
that
though.
one
Like
on that one.
pilots all
Yeah.
pilots all around the world use ForeFlight to plan their routes. Right? They know their speed. They know their rate of fuel burn. That's how they figure out their distances that they can fly, where they have to stop for fuel, and everything from millionaires that have private jets to people that put ferry tanks on little Cessnas and fly those to customers around the world. To you've got all these people that are using these maps and tracing out routes on them, and there's no way to have that somehow ForeFlight be lying to them and not have them running out of fuel and crashing all the time, because there's no way you would make all the distances work.
Works both ways.
What do you mean by
Possible.
that?
Well, I don't think about it. It's like they're both off. I know exactly what, but if you fly San Diego to Texas to Miami to Chile, like, why are you doing that other than picking up people and what? Like, there isn't flights just straight down.
Sure, there's nonstop
I'm
flights.
so
What do you mean?
confused.
I do guys know some stuff, but I haven't heard anything new. I mean, bless you and everything, but I'm not really asking.
Like there's daily
Yeah, here, I
nonstop
think,
flights from Sydney to Los Angeles, right? But on all these
Gatebreaker.
maps, you're traversing the majority of the flat Earth, and you're crossing over the African continent.
I got you, dude. There's
And-
definitely more to uncover. Gatebreaker has a couple. He just posted one where he actually does take like the claim flight paths and then he puts them on different coordinate layouts, like the AE or the two pole. I think that one there he just posted might be. Yeah, it looks like the two pole one in like the black background. Yeah, it's like every time we talk about the two pole, like the globe folks just want to be like, but it's a globe, but it's a globe. I mean, the thing is, like, if it isn't a globe, then that's in the garbage can. If you think it is, that's cool. The rest of the world already thinks it is. You're already supported by the quote unquote mainstream to go along with the story. But you're here, obviously, and we're talking about many other additional components. And of course, it not being a globe. So if it's not a globe and it is planar and stationary, etc., then there's just certain requirements in terms of what the sky is. So instead of trying to, like, you're trying to debunk this so you can try to convince people to globe, but there's already people that are not going back to the globe, either way, and we still want to know what it is. And if you want to know what it is too, it seems like it'd be more fun to try to put the pieces together as to how it can work and try to get to what the truth is rather than just defaulting to something that many already know is not true in terms of the globe.
But what if they're just mistaken and it really is a globe?
Then that would be their journey to get to the truth.
But if you just said that they don't want to go to the globe and like we should help out their journey in figuring out what the truth, well, we know what the truth is, so we're just going to keep pressing the globe, of course. Why would we press anything else other than the truth, and why would we humor like the attempts of people to try and like make bogus models?
Ritual. Pretty much.
Yeah, people may want to debate you at times, maybe not. It depends on if anyone cares about. If you're trying to be like a globe salesman or whatever, like if you're trying to sell a globe, I guess you could keep trying. People have been trying for millennia, and they've kind of half sold it to the population. My statement was. Even though the mainstream has never even really looked into it, so most people don't really know what it is. They just believe it, that it may be something. And then there's information out there that tries to compel people to globe. You may have latched onto that, but I know that you haven't measured or tested the Earth either. So you're just latching on what other men told you. And I hear you. It's fun to, I guess, latch on to what men say. But it's another thing to actually get to the truth. And I would say you are on a truth journey as it is even just being here, because otherwise you might just be in some place just celebrating NASA and balls in space, but you're not. You're talking to a whole bunch of group of people that are already shifting away or have completely shifted away from the globe belief.
Again, so but you're not addressing my statement. But I'll restate.
Well, I get it, dude. You're not the one to have like an interesting, expansive discussion about the nature of reality. Like you're just like you want to just hard nose people back into a ball. So that's all you want to do. I get it.
You mean I press people whenever they say shit that doesn't make sense?
Yeah,
I don't
so
understand.
we should shift topics. We were talking about the two pole. I was talking with other people that already have a planar Earth cosmology, and you're trying to kind of bat something down. I'm not really debating with you. So let's just get on a new point then, or something new.
We're
Jake was
pressing the
asking.
I do have a little bit of a problem, Gio, with you just saying, well, you just believe something a man told you. But that's like literally what like all of us, 99% of the knowledge that we all have, that for every single person in here, is because they believe something that someone else told them, not what firsthand knowledge. If your only actual knowledge in your life was only the firsthand knowledge you accumulated, you would know almost nothing compared to the knowledge that you have.
It's only the
No,
last
I hear
couple
you. We
hundred
get
years.
information from people. I hear you. We do, but when it comes to what the Earth is, that's a huge question. So there's a lot of having to believe other men if you're going to go with the globe. I mean, wouldn't you agree?
That's right. Nobody in this room ever saw the Earth from far enough away in space with their own eyes.
Except for astronauts, but nobody will accept that.
Like
I've never
That's the
seen.
men we're talking about. That's the men. That's part of the
I've
group.
I've never seen anyone bit by a rattlesnake and get rattlesnake poisoning. I've never even met anyone that's had that happen to them. But I'm pretty sure that I wouldn't be fucking with a rattlesnake to find out on my own if it's true.
If you want to compare that to the shape of the world, that's on you, buddy.
Well, like, why not, right? Like, at least I know, Scott Veach, and Scott Veach's dad went to. It says that he went to space, right? And I know Scott Veach well enough that I know he's not a bullshitter. So he believes what his dad told him, right? So at least I have firsthand knowledge there. I don't even know anyone secondhand that's ever been bitten by a rattlesnake. So I have more evidence for the globe Earth than I have that rattlesnakes are poison.
All right, well then where would you like to go with the conversation? Like obviously we don't believe the globe and many of us are not going to shift to it. So if that's like your goal, you're probably not going to get that satisfied.
No.
So
This was more of an
other direction
epistemology
of
argument.
conversation then?
It's more of an epistemology argument. Like Gio, what would you say was your, because you used the grading scale earlier about the 24-hour sun in Antarctica. Prior to the final experiment, what would you have put the percentage that there's a 24-hour sun in Antarctica prior to the TFE?
Well, if you're saying percentage of whether I thought one was there or not, that's one thing. But if you're saying like 0 to 10, like video evidence quality, just from video evidence strength, let's say the strength of the video evidence, I was already at about like an 8.5 before they even went, and then them going took it up to like 9 point something.
So if you had to bet your life, for example, on the truth, you would have bet your life on that there was a 24-hour sun in Antarctica.
But I don't know about that betting your life. I don't really want to karmically.
Well, no. If you were I get it that it's a dichotomy, that it's just a thought experiment dichotomy. But if there was like a situation where it was like, red or black, like your life depended on choosing the right one, and you'd be shot in the face if you chose wrong.
I was telling Witz that he was going to see it. I mean, on this live stream, I'm like, dude, you're going to see the 24-hour sun. So yeah, I was fully expecting them to see it.
Well, the difference between
I never claimed there wasn't one there.
Someone who doesn't want to bite the hand that feeds them, is that the difference maker? There's a lot of people they don't want to go against their government. They want to protect their brotherhood.
What would you say, like, if you had that same, kind of that same confidence? I mean, do you think that there's, at this point, Gio, do you think there's, this is just for you personally, do you think there's 0% chance that the Earth could actually be a globe? Or are you 100% convinced that it's not a globe.
You're asking me directly?
Yeah, this is for you specifically, personally.
Can I answer?
Yeah, I was kind of half distracted writing a message. I kind of missed the question. Do you want to answer it first?
No. The question, Geo, is if you had to put a percentage on that, on the chance that the Earth might actually be a globe as we're claiming that it is, and that it's not flat versus it's not a globe. I'm not even going to make you pick a shape, just that it's not a globe. What would you how would you put that percentage wise? Like 99% chance it's not a globe, 1% chance it's a globe, or 50-50, or for you personally?
I don't
It's
think we're
as
going to get an answer.
likely to be a globe as the chances you'll find an uncut video from Earth to far enough away showing it's a globe.
In the next 20 years, even.
I've been
I
to the
guess
moon.
the reason I couldn't say anything is 0 or 100 is because I am intellectually honest with myself, like not in any debating way, but I know that I have not mapped or measured the entire Earth. So like there's kind of different layers to come at that question. That's why I'm kind of sitting here pondering, trying to think of like, does it even make sense to put a number? It's sort of like a non-applicable is the answer in a way. Like first of all, I haven't measured or tested the entire Earth myself on the first scale. On another scale, I haven't seen any valid evidence of any curvature in any way, shape, or form, or motion. We could get into all of those factors. However, I don't have like an exact map of a planar Earth either, like an exact map or exact way the sky links to it, to be able to pin that on it. But the globe also has tons and tons of issues. And then there's a whole nother way in terms of like from a more spiritual perspective, like when you get in like intuitively what the nature of creation is. And I don't mean spiritual like religious, like just believing some other, text or anything. I'm also just talking about like the very nature of reality. Like, am I on a ball? Is that the nature of creation? I'm saying like my connection to what creation is. And all of those things you might take differently. Like if I went on the more like nature of creation, even the word intuitive or spiritual, for some people, they write it all off or instantly go into ridicule mode. So it's like whether you would do that, then that would not be useful to you if I were to give you from that angle. From the actual like practical, like in a human body, me, myself, as who I actually am, I just like we all are limited in what we can actually validate for ourselves. So then there's all kinds of third party information that there's some things that I have validated for myself. I've done laser tests. I've done certain things that, long distance observations. I have done certain things for myself, as we all have. So it's kind of, sorry to give kind of a complex answer, but yeah, I don't think it is just like one simple percent. Like I do not think creation is a sphere. I do not think that we were created in a ball in a vacuum. At the same time, if you put me in front of the United Nations right now, I always kind of give this as a funny example. I'll just finish on this. If somehow I was put in front of the whole world, the United Nations, and I'm going to give an hour-long presentation about how the Earth is not a sphere and it actually is a planar, would I feel like I have enough like hard, rock-solid evidence that I could absolutely like hands down prove it? I would say no. Now, some people might think they can, but I would say no because we need like several $100 million and a decade or two to really put everything together to where you could give that presentation, meaning physical, tangible measurements of water, not optical, not curving, and interferometry experiments done at different altitudes to show that it doesn't match with the globe, like replicating what Dayton Miller did. So there's like all these things that would need to be done to where we could come with like absolute rock solid. So that's why, like, if you're asking percentage wise, I know it's a complex answer, but it's like in my physical body as a rational, brain in a body walking around, I have certain limited information. But then if you get into like how my mind has assessed the evidence that's already provided, there's that whole category. I think we could go on percentages on that. And then, like I said, there's the spiritual side as well, or the actual like my own spatial awareness. Like you have like emotional intelligence, like you also have spatial awareness, like the awareness of what your spatial field is. So Sorry, it's kind of a long, complex answer, but it's just like from different angles. And I do think there would be more that would be needed to be able to tangibly prove it.
What?
I don't know why that had to be so complicated, right? Because if you ask me to do the same thing for Bigfoot, I would say 99.999% chance that there's no Bigfoot, but there's a 0.0001% chance that he's out there and somehow has remained elusive.
Well, where are
Right?
you coming with that percentage of? See, I broke it all down from like the rational level of what I personally have been able to test and measure, which, like I was saying, we're all limited in that sense. Are you just going off a whim? Are you going off, an intuitive feeling? Are you going off a feeling, a gut feeling? Because then that would be intuition. So what are you going off of? Like,
I'd say
because I could tell you it's a 0%. From that level, I could say 0% we're on a spinning ball and that we're inverting 180 degrees every 12 hours.
I doubt, I would say on the rational side is, given the breeding population it would need and how much of the forests have been explored, we probably would have run into it by now. But then again, during the 1800s, when the Westerners came to China and they were told about the panda, they didn't believe it. They looked for it and they couldn't find it. So, but we know that pandas are real, obviously. So there's always the small chance that it's just somehow has remained elusive. We find new animal species all the time. So I don't want to say that it's 0% chance. But then if you ask me something like, are there aliens actively visiting the Earth right now? I'd be, closer to 50-50 on that, right?
But I'm asking, where are you getting the 50-50 from? Is it just, are you winging it?
Well,
Because you
personal
asked me to
experience.
give
No,
one. And
that would be from personal experience because I've witnessed 2 UFOs in my life.
well, you've heard about the idea there's like primary knowledge, like something that you saw, tested, validated yourself, primary. And that's what I was saying. We're all limited on primary for the shape of the Earth to some extent. I mean, even if you've done, certain, even surveying is still limited to a degree. But anyways, there is primary. Secondary, meaning you heard it from someone and then you have to then evaluate that evidence. That's a whole thing in and of itself. Now, with that secondary one, like, see, we could go through all these. Like, if you and I went back and forth, what is our primary, directly from us source of the shape of the Earth? And I could give some of mine, you could give some of yours. Then we could say our secondary from evidences that others claim. How do you analyze those evidences, and how do I analyze those evidences? That's a whole thing that would lead to some percentage. And then there's tertiary, which is like from a third level, like, other evidence that came through another source. Then you're getting to like maybe NASA and some of those things where there's like a government source and then there's other people that are then sharing the information, and so on. Even with like the astronauts, like the tertiary would be the astronauts that claim to be on the moon. The secondary would be NASA that's then claiming it, and then, et cetera. So, and then there's like the spiritual, intuitive, awareness of creation, et cetera, side of it too. So those are all different categories. So like when you're coming up with 50-50 or some of these things, it sounds like you were doing a mix of like secondary evidence of what you think, and then maybe just like a gut feeling, an intuitive sense of whether it's true or not. It sounds like what you were combining, because you don't have any primary knowledge whether Bigfoot exists, or like in those examples. So the primary is just out entirely.
Right. I have zero primary knowledge of Bigfoot, which is why my confidence is so high that he doesn't exist.
See, I don't have any primary knowledge that we're on a sphere of any motion or curvature. Like, I've never observed anything that indicates that the Earth is in any way curving at the rate they claim or has the motion.
We have very knowledge of most of the land as well. So, and yeah, I just wanted to say on the percentage, I mean, it's like 80-20 all the time. And that adds up to, or like, you don't go back to, like, I understand where you guys are at. I'm not saying it's above or anything, but it's a different picture. It's bigger. And yeah, we have to kind of laugh at a dipole Earth or whatever. It's bigger questions. We're just not even talking about it. Saying debunked is like, we're never going to get evidence for, as described, ball, space, all that.
Let me ask you this. Imagine that instead of Will Duffy, we had, Elon Musk, and he dedicated a whole Dragon mission, and he put Witsit and he put Witsit and Jaren. I don't know, maybe one other flat earther that you consider to be a respectable, reputable one, or maybe 2 other ones that are kind of big mainstream flat earthers that you've always respected and reputable, and they actually launched them into orbit. They orbited the Earth for a couple of days, just like that that mission that they had a year ago. Would that have moved the needle at all for you? Where they were live streaming, showing curvature out the window, and showing that they're weightless for for hours.
Why not yet? I mean, they're showing curve both ways still. So when the camera moves,
would that have moved the needle for you, Gio?
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking me. I would evaluate everything as is. Like, dude, there's a lot that I go off of like resonance, which if we're in like some kind of debate style where people need to like point fingers and try to like chop you down, maybe it's not the time to go into it. But like, dude, when Witsit was in Antarctica and he made like one of his first live streams where he just sat in front of that camera and he was like, I am in Antarctica. The sun, you know, and he was just very matter of fact. Now, from like, maybe people interpreted that differently. Maybe one guy watched that somewhere in the world and thought, this guy's lying, he's bullshit, you know, because they're just hearing him say the words and they think maybe he's not being accurate. But when I watched him say that, to me, it was just dripping in truth. Like, there wasn't anything sketchy. I did not think he was acting. He was like, you could tell he was like sleep deprived and he was just laying it down. Now, I'm not saying that like did any huge convincing to me. I already had accumulated a lot of the evidence of what was there anyways. I already told him he was going to see it when he got there. So it's not like that was like needed for me to, you know, but I'm just saying that resonance of, and it's the opposite when I watch actors on the ISS. It's the complete opposite. They're not dripping in truth at all. They're completely actors and scattering in their body language. So, I mean, if you're asking how I would evaluate something like that, like, you know, people claiming to go to space, I would have to take it on any, you know, on that same basis. I mean, if it's not me doing it, I'm just analyzing the evidence. So if that's what you're asking, like if people claim to go and see the ball or whatever, I would look at what they provide. Sure, I would see what they're.
So if I understand you, it wouldn't matter whether it was, you know, Witsit and Jaron or flat earthers that you've had, you know, some personal involvement with, or just strangers off the street. It would make no difference to you as far as evidence goes.
No, it would definitely play difference on the evidence. Sure. Why would it not? I mean, it would be a piece of evidence if that's what you're saying. I mean, somebody outside of like NASA astronauts going to space, you're saying, basically?
Yeah, but if you think that would have turned anybody.
Well, it seems like you're looking. If you put me in front of the United Nations right now, I always kind of give this as a funny example. I'll just finish on this. If somehow I was put in front of the whole world, the United Nations, and I'm going to give an hour-long presentation about how the Earth is not a sphere and it actually is a planar, would I feel like I have enough like hard, rock-solid evidence that I could absolutely like hands down prove it? I would say no. Now, some people might think they can, but I would say no because we need like several $100 million and a decade or two to really put everything together to where you could give that presentation, meaning physical, tangible measurements of water, you know, not optical, you know, not curving, and, you know, interferometry experiments done at different altitudes to show that it doesn't match with the globe, like replicating what Dayton Miller did. So there's like all these things that would need to be done to where we could come with like absolute rock solid. So that's why, like, if you're asking percentage wise, I know it's a complex answer, but it's like in my physical body as a rational, you know, brain in a body walking around, I have certain limited information. But then if you get into like how my mind has assessed the evidence that's already provided, there's that whole category. I think we could go on percentages on that. And then, like I said, there's the spiritual side as well, or the actual, like, you know, like my own spatial awareness, you know, like you have like emotional intelligence, like you also have spatial awareness, like the awareness of what your spatial field is. So sorry, it's kind of a long, complex answer, but it's just like from different angles. And I do think there would be more that would be needed to be able to tangibly prove it.
What? I don't know why that had to be so complicated, right? Because if you ask me to do the same thing for Bigfoot, I would say 99.999% chance that there's no Bigfoot, but there's a 0.0001% chance that he's out there and somehow has remained elusive.
Where are you coming with that percentage of? See, I broke it all down from like the rational level of what I personally have been able to test and measure, which, like I was saying, we're all limited in that sense. Are you just going off a whim? Are you going off, you know, an intuitive feeling? Are you going off a feeling, a gut feeling? Because that would be intuition. So what are you going off of? Like, I can tell you 0% from that level. I could say 0% we're on a spinning ball and that we're inverting 180 degrees every 12 hours.
I doubt. You know, I would say on the rational side is, you know, given the breeding population it would need and how much of the forests have been explored, we probably would have run into it by now. But then again, during the 1800s, you know, when the Westerners came to China and they were told about the panda, they didn't believe it. They looked for it, they couldn't find it. So, but we know that pandas are real, obviously. So there's always the small chance that it's just somehow has remained elusive. We find new animal species all the time. So I don't want to say that it's 0% chance, But then if you ask me something like, are there aliens actively visiting the Earth right now? I'd be, closer to 50-50 on that, right?
But I'm asking, where are you getting the 50-50 from? Is it just, are you winging it?
Well,
Because you
personal
asked me to
experience.
give
No,
one, and
that would be from personal experience because I've witnessed 2 UFOs in my life.
well, you've heard about the idea there's like primary knowledge, like something that you saw, tested, validated yourself, primary. And that's what I was saying. We're all limited on primary for the shape of the Earth to some extent. I mean, even if you've done, certain, even surveying is still limited to a degree. But anyways, there is primary, secondary, meaning you heard it from someone and then you have to then evaluate that evidence. That's a whole thing in and of itself. Now, with that secondary one, like, see, we could go through all these. Like, if you and I went back and forth, what is our primary, directly from us source of the shape of the Earth? And I could give some of mine, you could give some of yours. Then we could say our secondary, from evidences that others claim. How do you analyze those evidences, and how do I analyze those evidences? That's a whole thing that would lead to some percentage. And then there's tertiary, which is like from a third level, like, other evidence that came through another source. Then you're getting to like maybe NASA and some of those things where there's like a government source, and then there's other people that are then sharing the information, and so on. Even with like the astronauts, like the tertiary would be the astronauts that claim to be on the moon. The secondary would be NASA that's then claiming it, and then, et cetera. So, and then there's like the spiritual, intuitive, awareness of creation, et cetera, side of it too. So those are all different categories. So like when you're coming up with 50-50 or some of these things, it sounds like you were doing a mix of like secondary evidence of what you think, and then maybe just like a gut feeling, an intuitive sense of whether it's true or not. It sounds like what you were combining, because you don't have any primary knowledge whether Bigfoot exists, or like in those examples. So the primary is just out entirely.
Right. I have zero primary knowledge of Bigfoot, which is why my confidence is so high that he doesn't exist.
See, I don't have any primary knowledge that we're on a sphere of any motion or curvature. Like, I've never observed anything that indicates that the Earth is in any way curving at the rate they claim or has the motion.
We have very knowledge of most of the land as well. So, and yeah, I just wanted to say on the percentage, I mean, it's like 80-20 all the time. And that adds up to, or like, you don't go back to, like, I understand where you guys are at. I'm not saying it's above or anything, but it's a different picture. It's bigger. And yeah, we have to kind of laugh at a dipole Earth or whatever. It's bigger questions. We're just not even talking about it. Saying debunked is like, we're never going to get evidence for, as described, ball, space, all that.
Let me ask you this, imagine that instead of Will Duffy, we had, Elon Musk, and he dedicated a whole Dragon mission, and he put Witsit and he put Witsit and Jaron. I don't know, maybe one other flat earther that you consider to be a respectable, reputable one, or maybe 2 other ones that are kind of big mainstream flat earthers that you've always respected and reputable, and they actually launched them into orbit. They orbited the Earth for a couple of days, just like that mission that they had a year ago. Would that have moved the needle at all for you? Where they were live streaming, showing curvature out the window, and showing that they're weightless for exactly over hours.
Why not yet? I mean, they're showing curve both ways still. So when the camera moves,
would that have moved the needle for you, Gio?
I'm not sure exactly what you're asking me. I would evaluate everything as is. Like, dude, there's a lot that I go off of like resonance, which if we're in like some kind of debate style where people need to like point fingers and try to like chop you down, maybe it's not the time to go into it. But like, dude, when Witsit was in Antarctica and he made like one of his first live streams where he just sat in front of that camera and he was like, I am in Antarctica. The sun, he was just very matter of fact. Now, from like, maybe people interpreted that differently. Maybe one guy watched that somewhere in the world and thought, this guy's lying, he's bullshit, because they're just hearing him say the words and they think maybe he's not being accurate. But when I watched him say that, to me, it was just dripping in truth. Like, there wasn't anything sketchy. I did not think he was acting. He was like, you could tell he was like sleep deprived and he was just laying it down. Now, I'm not saying that like did any huge convincing to me. I already had accumulated a lot of the evidence of what was there anyways. I already told him he was going to see it when he got there. So it's not like that was like needed for me to, but I'm just saying that resonance of, and it's the opposite when I watch actors on the ISS. It's the complete opposite. They're not dripping in truth at all. They're completely actors and scattering in their body language. So I mean, if you're asking how I would evaluate something like that, like, people claiming to go to space, I would have to take it on, and on that same basis. I mean, if it's not me doing it, I'm just analyzing the evidence. So that's what you're asking. Like, if people claim to go and see the ball, I would look at what they provide. Sure, I would see what they're.
So if I understand you, it wouldn't matter whether it was within Jaron or flat earthers that you had some personal involvement with, or just strangers off the street. It would make no difference to you as far as evidence goes.
No, it would definitely play difference on the evidence. Sure. Why would it not? I mean, it would be a piece of evidence if that's what you're saying. I mean, somebody outside of like NASA astronauts going to space, you're saying, basically.
Yeah, but if you think that would have turned anybody?
Well, it seems like you're looking to turn people to the globe. I'm not.
I'm just more curious.
We're curious.
Like how would I explain this?
Is your question basically this, that if someone went, like a Witsit or someone like that, whoever went, you said some, I mean, you say flat earther. I don't necessarily agree with everyone that refers to themselves as a flat. I mean, dude, Eric Dubé said the TFE was fake. So, I mean, I don't agree with him on that at all. So, I mean, there isn't just like one thing. I don't even really refer to myself as a flat earther in certain ways as well. I mean, I do think the earth is planar and stationary and so on, but that term has a lot to it. But if you're saying somebody that I know or have known claims to have gone out to space and said, oh my God, you guys, it's a globe, and they had tons of footage and they came back and all of their body language was completely legit for that they saw a ball. Is that your question? Would that
Yeah,
somehow
will that
change
move the
me to
needle
thinking
for
it's
you? Because here's the thing, I genuinely believe, and I'm not saying that you're one of these people, Gio, but I genuinely believe that there are people, maybe even in the server, that even if Elon Musk gave them a free flight to space on a Dragon capsule, and they orbited the Earth for a few days, and saw how they were traversing the entire Earth, every 90 minutes, you could see the continents flying by, an obvious curvature of the Earth. Uh, that they would still say that they were somehow tricked, that it was somehow some kind of a delusion or an implanted projection, or they would have some way to explain it away so that they could continue to believe in flat Earth despite the evidence against it.
Well, describing it, I'm sorry, Gio, he's kind of breaking it down while you're trying to, as far as thinking about it. But we have cameras that are flat, or that the whatever you call it, the framing and the lensing. So put 10 of them on a capsule and throw them up, and we'd like that. HD 2025, lots of footage. We don't get it. Elon could do it, and is he an outsider? I don't, I'm not trying to get into that, but we're waiting. Like 10 years ago, it was like soon, and then maybe another 10. In my opinion. So every day, just the percentage is lower.
I'll never question the shape of the Earth again. Send Nathan Oakley up there, and if he says it's a globe, then I'll believe it.
Nathan Oakley?
Yeah.
The dude that Gakushi, I'm pretty sure you would say he's a degenerate based on some of the stuff that he's done.
Doesn't matter. We're talking about the shape of the Earth. Most degenerate people are globers, by the way, because they're atheists and they're anti-God. So
Yeah, no vices, no virtues.
I mean, you guys' favorite Glober's boogeyman, MC2, and that guy's a hardcore religious dude. He's not an atheist.
he's a degenerate, though. He's a known liar.
She's a lesbian. We all know that.
He's intelligent.
Yeah, Jake, I would need to see the actual surface measured tangibly to be curved. One thing about going up high at altitude, I realize that, like, technically if you went up and you saw a big ball up there, I realize that would be obviously compelling to anyone's own eyes if they saw that. However, the thing is, on a planar surface, I would expect it to be like a circle. So, like, as you were to go up in altitude, let's say you kept going higher and higher, because there's a limit of how far you can see on the ground, like, you're not gonna be able to see, even if it was an infinite plane, you're not gonna see very far. So no matter how big the plane is, if it's massive, obviously only half of it would be lit up by the sun anyway, so you're not going to see the whole thing lit up. Anyways, you're only going to see like half of the lit up portion. But as you were to be going higher and higher, if you were to keep going higher, the circle of vision that you have of the distance of how far you can see would basically get smaller and smaller. So you would, like, the circle, this is like kind of more theoretically, but if you were to keep going higher above a planar surface, the ground that you see would get smaller and smaller. So because you can't just see forever and light doesn't travel forever, it's not like even if it was an infinite plane, you wouldn't go up there and be like, oh, and just see billions of miles. You would still just see, whatever, the couple hundred that you can even see. And even if you took that to like 500 or 1,000 miles, when it gets to those heights, you're still quite limited compared to the size. So that circle of that 1,000 miles, or even if you say 12,000, like half of the ball, let's say, yeah, the part that's lit up. So even if you see a 12,000 mile circle, let's say, in theory, if you could do that, and you go higher and higher, well, that 12,000 mile circle is going to start to get smaller in angular size. It's going to start to get smaller and smaller because you're moving away from a 12,000 circle light over a plane. Now, I'm not saying that would look like a ball because it would be planar, so it's not going to look like it has curvature.
But I'm just pointing out that that's what would be expected on a plane as is, that it would be a circle of light essentially that would get smaller and smaller. So I guess what I'm getting at is that going up in altitude is definitely interesting, but if you have curved lenses in the windows and those factors, whether that, because you're talking about someone else's testimonial of it. It would be interesting if there were some independent people outside of NASA astronauts and all these sketchy people that have claimed to go to space. It would be interesting if somebody did claim that it was a sphere. But I'm just saying, for the sphere to be proven, curvature of water and curvature on Earth has to be, I think, tangibly measured, and motion needs to be detected. Those are the things, more than just going up at altitude and getting kind of anecdotal viewpoints.
Yeah, but these guys,
motion is
these
irrelevant,
guys
though,
think
right?
that Katy Perry went to space, though. That's the only issue.
Motion is irrelevant, though, right, Geo? Because it could be a geostationary spherical Earth.
A stationary ball.
Yeah, that's what people used to believe, right? Prior to Galileo and his.
No, I think they were still debating ball for flat.
All right, so you're saying the motion, yeah, okay, okay, that's fine. The motion would need to be detected if it was a stationary ball, sure, it's true. But how we're all stuck to a ball upside down, that's not even in motion, which is actually easier to physically accomplish than spinning it at the way the heliocentric model makes it at the huge rates of speed. Like 2.2 million miles an hour or whatever they claim the ball is moving.
600. The Jesuit, the history of that whole, I don't know, say I know for a fact, but how that was decided, the geocentric globe versus heliocentric, and what was still going on then, maybe, and what scientists got promoted.
Hey, Dave, are you back? Your mic was open before. I don't know if you were trying to get in.
No, what's up?
Well, I was pointing out this thing that I posted, this, they call it the electric Coriolis effect. It's got the 2 rotations over flat water. I was just pointing out how there's no Pac-Manning in this.
Oh yeah, I don't know why Pac-Man. People are so easily convinced there have to be a Pac-Man with a 2-pole. It doesn't make any sense to me. That's the biggest. Yeah. I made that GIF. I think you got that GIF from me. I made that GIF a long time ago with the from that video.
And if you were just in well, I don't know. I do have the GIF and the full video version, but if you were just on one part of the, let's say that center line was the equator, you would see in a small portion of the sky, you'd see the stars going straight. But then wouldn't you agree though that for this to be the case, though, the stars would have to split somewhere, out in the Pacific?
Yeah. Oh yeah, that E1 talks about that all the time. He's like, you can see them already separating. In fact, he says the Milky Way goes half one way and half the other. The Milky Way splits apart, and you can see it already stretching out when it gets out towards past the celestial equator meridian area, and it starts to spread apart. So that means that there's total circuitry going on that's so consistent that the Milky Way, if that's true, the Milky Way goes one half the other direction, and then combines with itself again right through this little area that we're allowed to see it. That as far as we can see, because he was saying if you could get past Easter Island enough with a telescope, you could definitely see them separating and the stars going off 360 degrees from each other. And that's what stellarium shows too. They converge and diverge. That's what stellarium shows us. So
yeah, and if they just continue on that divergence, what happens? Yeah, exactly. They would go either up north or south. Yeah, if you continue that path, yeah. Yeah, they've just transcribed the stereographic celestial sphere of the sky into a huge ball that surrounds an assumed globe Earth ball, and then utilize that to describe that the star rotations are kind of following the latitudes, and therefore the arc of them is kind of curving the top part of the ball. But well, dude, yeah, that's pretty intense though to think that there's a part of the sky where they split though. That would mean that they're hiding that from us, and they're hiding that from us somehow.
Yeah, That would be definitely something that I want people to see. And the whole myth of Quetzalcoatl. We were speculating that's where that story came from, with the dragon being torn apart. Like the Milky Way would be Quetzalcoatl and it'd be being torn apart in the sky.
Wow. That's pretty intense. That's based on that, you think?
Well, we were speculating that's maybe where the Quetzalcoatl story came from, because most myths or religions in general could be seen as just interpretations of the sky and telling the sky story. There's a lot of evidence to say that could be the case with astrotheology and all that. You know, for sure. But yeah, I mean, Stellarium shows the convergence and divergence of the stars just like that. Why would Stellarium show that? Have to show that, maybe.
Like the ones that Gatebreaker just posted? The convergence, divergence?
Let's see. Yeah. Yep. That's the way magnetic fields work. I mean, it's the only way that it makes sense in a lot of ways, right? Because we have an electric field and it's consistent, just the way an electric field is. It's still weird for me thinking about it that way, as far as like, I mean, as far as it being organic, life in general, you'd think if there's any organicness to it, it would be randomness, but this is like total clockwork, no inconsistencies. It definitely, if it was like, all kinds of artifacts resulting from a big bang, you wouldn't expect this kind of consistency either. You wouldn't think, for sure. Yeah, it's like a big machine. But like I said before, there was somebody in here. It's actually Bacon, or somebody was saying, yeah, it was Bacon that was talking about the three stars of Orion and actually splitting apart. And just the night before, I was talking to E1 about the three stars of Orion and how he used to say that those are the only ones he couldn't track going either one direction or the other, north or south, and they almost appear like a Pac-Man in the way that you can't see them going one way or the other, but they align with the other stars and go right through the center again. But he says that he thinks that they split apart and that maybe even the middle star, or one of the three, itself splits apart and goes one direction or the other. I'm like, whoa, you think the star itself is, well, if it's just whatever the phenomenon is, maybe it's not a solid thing. Maybe the
What's
electromagnetic field is overpowering it and splitting the completely apart. And then
so
Bacon was saying a similar thing.
What's more likely? Witsit's lying, or the stars and the people are Pac-Manning?
I don't care about what Witsit says, bro. I don't know why you're saying something about Witsit.
He's the person that saw it.
Witsit has
We didn't.
nothing to do with what I think about the Earth right now in this context.
He was in the movie. We were all shown a movie, and he claims it was real. And he's the person
Oh,
that
dude,
would.
I already knew there was a 24-hour sun. I told you that back in 2017. I was laughing at people that thought the AE map was correct. I was laughing back then. I'm still laughing at you right now.
You're not laughing right now.
In my head, I am.
I got you.
Well, it is weird to have like that be the only response that flat earthers could say. They can at least say they do seem to be going clockwise and counterclockwise in the north and the south. But it was like this automatic scripted reaction of stars go east to west, stars go east to west. Just go with that line, and it made our side of the argument look pretty bad. If there are actually southern stars going the opposite direction, a lot of people have written off flat Earth over the years because of that alone.
Well, you only see it go east to west. You don't see it.
We're doing okay. Sorry.
You're just doing the same line as if I didn't point out how ridiculous it is. They go in counterclockwise and clockwise. You've seen the star trails, right? You admit that it's
You
counterclockwise and
mean
clockwise
oh no,
overall, right?
I'm not granting any of that. I have to look into that more, but
You don't think star trail footage? Anybody can make star trail footage. That's not
okay.
exclusive to going to
And
Antarctica, and
why is
you
it
know
only
it's
from
not hard.
Australia? And why is the first person that comes up on
No, there's
YouTube
lots of southern
fucking
star trail footage, dude.
what's her name?
There's lots of southern star trail footage. It's not abnormal at all.
Okay. Lots
You
of
knew that,
moon
right?
landing. Lots of space footage.
No, I mean there's plenty of people in the South that have made star trail videos. It's not like hundreds and thousands of people are making star trail videos that are fake to convince you that the AE is impossible. It's just, I don't get it. Why, even if it's like the thing that you know, Witsit and Shane and everybody were saying, it's a you know, a manifestation with the anti-arcing you know, dome effect. It could, even if it was that, it appears to be that there's southern star trails going the opposite direction, and that's not really debatable or even questioned.
So
Hey,
you
It's
for
think
either like
Taylor's
a
perspective,
fucking
reflection of the north with
I
the
posted a
dome,
video of
or
the
there's
aliens
Milky
have
Way.
actual stars.
I posted a model of the Milky Way thing you were talking about splitting. You could see it.
You can see them spreading
Yeah, look
apart.
at it.
That's crazy. Yeah, if the Milky Way stretches out and makes a different, it has a different formation, and it looks like it's spreading apart. That's pretty crazy. I don't know if it circles like that, but if it does that whole thing,
This looks
that's kind
very
of like an
concave.
upper.
I was gonna say this.
Yeah, that's
I'm
concave.
going full concave on this one. It's got a concave vibe to it, but it does. Yeah, it does.
Definitely concave.
It's
Never go full.
concavey, but
It's the
it's
grid
kind of a
lines that are
cool.
tricking you. Let me get rid of them. It'll be better.
No, it's just kind of. It just looks like it, like because of that, the way they split and come around.
Well,
But
yeah, it goes behind you almost in that GIF.
The 24-hour sun, by the way, in Antarctica works on the concave model. FYI.
Yeah, but we're not. There's no curvature. I mean, planes prove that we're not in concave as well as a ball. You can't have a jet going 1,000 miles an hour without correcting for some kind of curvature up or down. I mean, if the jet goes 1,000 miles an hour and it just has the same level
Yeah,
trajectory, it would have to
like
account for the curvature one way or the other. It debunks any kind of curvature.
it's exponential like it's only on the edge. So yeah, you can fly over the center without possibly. I mean, because the infrared photography with a lot of call range
Yeah.
equipment and stuff from Tolan, he's like, it actually looks like that mountain's higher than it should be. You know, even though he's proving flatness. So I mean, there's
I mean,
refraction.
to believe people are walking upside down relative to me, either above me or below me, is ludicrous beyond any kind of like convincing at this point. It's just like I can't even believe I ever believed that. I mean, really, the concave, it's just like the ball. You have to suspend all your disbelief in like thinking people are antipodal upside down without even the force that it would take to keep. I mean, you'd have to have suction cups for that to be like the force that we feel to just walk and then be upside down all of a sudden and have it be like just like you're standing up.
I'm talking
That's
about
what I
like,
have pictured.
like a meniscus concave, but there's also, you know, Jacob Astor was in the mine that was like an egg with the sun as the yolk. So walking around the inside kind of thing.
Right, but I mean, it's the same problems as the globe with the upside
Not
down
even,
people.
but maybe it's not, that's like a kind of childish, even though whatever, like that's a, but he's
That's
not around.
that's the claim, right? If it's a concave Earth, then people are upside down relative to people that are right side up,
I'm saying it would
right?
be just dish more kind of concavity, but
Oh yeah, like a dish, like a bowl. Well, that's all
as
flat Earth is. Flat Earth has to be a bowl to hold the water anyway. So flat Earth is
yeah,
concave in that way already.
the plane of
That's not
inertia is
concave though.
both ways. You know, Pac-Man comes into play. Why did they make Pac-Man?
I don't know about Pac-Man.
No, I
I don't
mean,
think it's happening.
I hear that. Well, it's like at some point you're on the other side or you're coming the other way.
Yeah, you're just
Again,
going around the water just the same way.
like describing it as like the inside of an egg or whatever, like, or skull. It's like that's
Are you
kind of
talking
like
about the upturned edge? Like the upturned edge? Yeah,
yeah.
sometimes
Well,
people call that concave, but that's just, I mean, we know Antarctica is the highest elevation, right?
yeah,
So
but we're just
that's already
little.
the case even with flat Earth.
We're just coming up with things, so it's not gonna. Well, I mean, the description is kind of this works, but not if you. It doesn't go all the way around. Is what I'm. I don't know, like the egg style Earth. It would be like effectively it's that because obviously you go one way and you end up in the same spot.
Well, yeah, but you can go around the south or around the north in the same way that the globe says. You're just not going across the blue side of the ball.
But we're not going to the north or the south. We don't have. Maybe it's too extreme, but like we're not set up at where the compass stops working close to something that.
Oh no, yeah, the compass, I guess, for the compass thing, it just follows the magnetic field lines, and it's gonna be like north if you're north. I don't know if it would work the same way in the south
You're
because I
on
think that's like a negative. But
no, I'm just saying like we're not live streaming the Rupus Negra. I mean, I think of the guy that does a bunch of old newspaper and writings about stuff they were doing because we've been on the ocean for a long time. It's not quite as I mean, it is hard, but they
yeah,
wrote
water's
current
level. We know that.
stars.
We already know water's level is not bending in any
We went out there
direction.
for 6 months, years.
Don't you agree? There's no reason to really believe that water's curving around the inside or outside of a ball, unless there's really good reason to think that's the case. Because as far as we can tell, locally, water's level, right? I mean, that's just their base axioms. I don't like to have a belief about any model. I'm not saying I believe in the two pole. I just think that makes the most sense at this point because that fits the observations that we can all see. And locally, it's stationary and level, which there's no reason to think that's not the case now that we stopped believing in the ball. So I just don't. Jake was saying to Geo that people believe in flat Earth. I've never seen it that way. People stop believing in the ball, you're back to your base axiom. It's not about believing what the whole thing is. And if that's the case, then you're just a believer like a baller. If you're thinking about something that goes against your base axioms as a belief system, then that's ridiculous in my mind. I don't know, but we're probably agreeing. I'm not trying to argue with you. I think we're probably agreeing more than
Yeah, no,
you guys
I'm
sound
trying
like.
to, but I guess debate is kind of should be challenging questions or statements.
I'm not sure exactly what you're trying to say, though. Maybe as far as the dual pole, are you saying the dual pole doesn't make sense for some reason? Or are you saying
No,
concave makes
I
more
like
sense?
that. I like that. I'm talking about concavity as far as different, like maybe the locally. I mean, even though again, I'm talking about just some upward refraction, maybe, but like it makes sense if you're looking up through a layer.
Mm-hmm.
No, I'm just like there's very smart people that were recently not accepting the ball. Like we keep hearing, it's like, oh, they figured this out, and like, how do you not, the Newtons and the Copernicus, and I mean, there's plenty to talk about, but why that happened. But
Did you get what I was saying about the jets that can fly 1,000 miles an hour? Like
yeah, well, I
for
mean,
them
the
to
Blackbird,
fly
I love. What
level.
about the Blackbird? Yeah, I mean, even if it's at altitude, like, is it nose down at Mach 3, or like, what if it's on the deck? I love salt flats as a racing, like.
Oh, like this, the amount of somebody worked it out with the math on that. Like the amount of correction you would have to do for a jet flying in a level, even if they're nosing up to keep aloft, they would have to they'd have to be totally correcting every single second to go on the inside of a concave or on the outside of a ball. It would be very noticeable with the jets that goes that fast.
Basically,
Right.
if you were to like walk outside and just look up at the sky, like through the blue sky, I guess there's like a whole nother continent, like a city on the other side, on the inside of the ball.
Yeah, like
That's a
hanging
pretty
upside
trippy
down
thing
above you.
Yeah, like hanging upside, like living and driving cars and flying airplanes and oceans and swimming in
Right?
the oceans. Like the whole thing is upside down in the sky above you. That's pretty
Like if you
wild.
could somehow have a device that was able to see to the other side, you'd see people. You could actually see the people hanging upside down from you above somehow.
Well, the thing
I
is, it's
mean,
not it's not that far on the because if the radius is 4,000 miles, that's not really that far. Like we see 6,000 both ways where the sun sets, like 12,000. So if the radius of no, it'd be 8,000 diameter. So I guess it would be 8,000 miles. But yeah, it's not even like technically that far. Like you almost could just fly straight up and end up in another country.
Right.
That's why they
if you do
turn.
the math though, on a jet that's flying 600 miles per hour, which is 10 miles a minute, that only works out to a drop of 60 feet per minute, which is
Okay,
nothing,
so
right? When a plane is landing on final approach, when it's flared up into the flare and the nose is up high, it's descending towards the runway at like 500 feet per minute. So 10 times it's descending on that final approach to landing. The last 100 feet, it's descending at 10 times the rate that it would be to follow the curvature of the Earth, right?
like, but
But Jake,
60.
Jake, you have to
And
agree.
it's nose up, and it's nose up when it's descending into the runway.
Ground speed
Dude,
is
I
only
don't know why that would be a point for the ball. Go ahead. Whoever's trying to get in.
I'm talking Blackbird, like 1,000 feet off the Pacific, 5 minutes, maybe.
A Blackbird can't fly at that speed off the Pacific. A Blackbird can't even go
I
supersonic
understand.
at sea level.
I understand. Okay, a railgun. Anyway,
Okay,
dude,
railgun is always hard.
Sure. Well, no, I mean ground speed on a landing aircraft, dude. Those things take a good 5 seconds to cross 8 lanes of a freeway when they're landing. So,
Dude, have you never been in a jet when you're landing and looked out the window? Are you out of your mind? You're hauling, dude.
no. Well, yeah, okay. I'm on the freeway and they fly over me, and it's a freaking 3
Dude,
count.
that's just an optical illusion, dude. If you're in the airplane and you see
No,
how fast stuff is
it's not optical.
moving
It's
underneath
vertical,
you,
side to side. They're flying into, 15 mile an hour wind and full flaps, flying slow.
But Jake,
dude,
real
they're
quick, I
not.
don't want to get into the whole
They're
debate.
approaching at like 140 knots, which is like 160 miles an hour, maybe a
I
little
watched.
slower.
I know this.
140
I know
miles
the facts.
an hour.
I know the facts. I know illusions. All right, no, I'm not saying anyone's wrong, but
Dude, it's not illusion. Have you not looked out
you're
the window when
explaining
you
it.
touch on the
Describing it.
runway and you see how fast the stuff is flying by you? You're not doing 60 miles an
Yeah,
hour. You're clearly going.
Oh God.
because you're 10
Hey
feet
Jake,
off
real quick. 24. Let me just real quick with Jake. Jake, you do realize that, or you agree? You have to agree to this. This is what the ball says, that the ball, for the plane to be flying over the ball, it has to be keeping up in perfect sync with the eastward rotation of the Earth. Right? Not going to get into the argument of how that happens or if it happens, but you realize the tangential velocity of the eastward movement of the Earth has to be in perfect sync with the plane, no matter which way the plane's going and how fast or what angle when it lands. It has to be in perfect sync with the rotation, because what you also have to agree with is that every pilot treats the Earth as if, in quotes, it's stationary, right? They don't account for spinning when they're landing, right?
Yeah, in the same way that if I'm on a train or I'm on an airplane and I take out my little palm-sized drone and I fly it around the cabin of the airplane and then land it back on my train table, I don't have to worry about the fact that the plane is traveling 600 miles an hour.
You know it's a non sequitur, though, right?
dude.
That's not the same. That's one reference frame.
Well, how is
Are
that
you
a non
saying that the
sequitur?
atmosphere works like the inside of a cabin of a plane?
I mean, I love how you guys now have to
Totally
divert now.
Yes, it's the
I
same
thought
thing.
I thought we were just talking
No,
about
it's
the
not.
motion. I thought we were just talking about the motion.
Yeah, we're talking about a tangential velocity of the ground that has a fastest at the equator, and then it tapers up to 0 miles per hour, they say at the poles. So, a plane that has no destination, not following any ground path, headed west-southwest You know, and it doesn't at all care that about the rotation, right? This pilot's just joyriding. He's going to land in a clearing somewhere around the equator. We know he's always going to be able to treat the Earth as stationary. He doesn't have to worry about keeping up with the rotation that's faster than where he took off from. It could be 1,000 miles an hour faster than where he took off from. So, and I always go with 500. If he has the conserved momentum of the 500 eastward rotation, and it's not even reasonable to think that that would continue to be the case when he's landing at 1,000 miles an hour. But even if you kept the 500 mile per hour conserved momentum from where he took off from, he's not going to be going twice as fast eastward, backwards when he's facing west, landing in some clearing, no ground path. It doesn't work. It breaks the ball, bro. I'm sorry.
So you're just ignoring the physics of air and drag.
What physics? No, the air doesn't even. The ball doesn't even claim that the air's in perfect lockstep. They say that the weather patterns are caused by the atmosphere not being in lockstep, so it's not even good enough. And winds going all directions, so that doesn't work, bro. We have winds going in all directions. We don't have that inside the plane of an airplane. It's one reference frame. We have two reference frames, inertial and non-inertial. That's totally the ball's mistake. It doesn't make it. It wouldn't work. Coriolis would be lost in the winds. Without a ground path, you can't say he's correcting for this eastward rotation, right? So he's just landing wherever he wants, always treating it as stationary. The air is not magically carrying him backwards at 1,000 miles an hour as he's slowing down to land, facing the other direction. If you think the air is carrying the plane backwards at 1,000 miles an hour as it slows down to almost 0 or 50 miles an hour when it hits the runway, and then you have to believe that the air is carrying the plane backwards twice as fast as where it took off from as it's facing the other direction. You can believe that if you want. There's no mechanism, there's no physics, there's no dynamics that can answer that. But you can just act like it happens kinematically in your head.
The thing that a plane has is it has rudders and it has engines, so it can compensate for wind. It can compensate for all sorts of things, and it can compensate for the very, very slight. This very slight change, and don't forget, we've talked about this before.
Plenty of times, and you said last time we talked about
the change in angular, the change in angular speed. If you go directly north, only happens very gradually, and that can be calculated, and it has been calculated. And you can look at it because we talked about this a few months ago.
There's no joyriding, right?
The lockstep as well as an invention
doesn't correct for anything.
Something that you're appealing to. It doesn't mean anything. For us,
you can say it doesn't mean anything, but the fact is, it would have to be going
perfect lockstep in order to. It's a straw man. It's a straw man. No,
there is no perfect lockstep. The ball doesn't even claim perfect lockstep atmosphere. Do you?
It does.
Do you think the ball claims perfect lockstep?
No, there's wind. It's not a perfect lockstep.
Yeah, there's wind going in all directions, so the wind's not carrying the plane. What's carrying the plane backwards at 1,000 miles an hour?
It's not going backwards.
Direction. What's the mechanism? What are you saying the mechanism is?
What do you mean the mechanism?
The mechanism that carries the plane twice as fast backwards than where it took off from as it's landing and facing the opposite direction.
It doesn't go twice as fast. It flies in the air.
If it was 1,000 mile an hour runway, if it was landing at a place where the Earth is said to move 1,000 miles an hour.
This has been explained numerous
times.
No,
it hasn't been explained. You can just say that it has been explained as if you had an answer when you don't have an answer now. You can act like you had an answer before. I'm about to post a recording of you saying, "Oh, it just looks like the Earth, the island's moving," and he lands as if it's not moving.
Take a breath.
You can just try to criticize me as if you had a point and I'm the one making it hard, but you do not. Okay, name the mechanism. Tell me how it goes backwards as it's slowing down to land in the opposite direction. I'll be quiet. Go ahead.
There's no mechanism. The plane just flies in the air, whatever direction the wind is flowing, and whatever direction the Earth is spinning. The air is what carries the plane. So the plane is flying in the air. It's not going 1,000 miles an hour in any direction. It's just in the air, whatever the air is doing.
That's what the globe says. 1,000 miles an hour at the equator.
If you walk outside, the air is still the air. That's. You can fly.
Well, then that's your mechanism, the air.
There's no mechanism. What do you mean by mechanism? What are you saying when you say mechanism?
With the Earth in perfect sync. What's the mechanism that makes the plane stay in perfect sync with the ground?
Yeah,
well, it has to be perfect sync. The pilot to treat the Earth as stationary. It has to be in perfect sync. Otherwise, the pilot would see there's a deviation.
Can you quote a pilot saying that the Earth is treated as stationary? I'd like to see a pilot
Well, I'll quote
prototype
you. I
saying that
just
we keep
posted
the
a video
stationary.
of you saying that the island moves, and it doesn't matter that the island's moving. He just lands on a
Oh
moving
yeah,
island as if
that
it's
was a good one.
stationary. That's you saying
Yeah,
it.
And
yeah,
So I
that
don't
was
know
a
why
good
you think
answer,
that makes sense.
and we're back here
I guess you
again.
can
But
say it's an answer,
that's
but
been answered.
I think it's hilarious. It's not an answer.
Oh,
It's just
fine,
you
but we're
gaslighting
back
or
here,
trying
are
to
we not?
gaslight me
No, Red Cloud.
and saying the
Let me just say,
opposite of
Yeah,
what
yeah.
you
Go
should
ahead,
do.
Gio.
well, let me just try to be intermediary and say one thing. Like,
Sure, sure.
so if you have like a tennis ball and then you have a little toy airplane, we all know that the airplane would be separate from the ball. So you'd have to like adjust things for the airplane to fly along, etc. Like we or it would, fly off the ball, all that stuff. But there's something on the globe Earth, claim that is, gravity, etc., that's keeping it all as if it's stationary, meaning they don't have to make these adjustments you're claiming. I'm just trying to say this in a very general way. So I think he's just asking in a nutshell, like, what is that mechanism? Maybe he's not explaining exactly that way, but he's explaining some of the specifics. But like, what is that mechanism that kind of glues? I call it like Jello. Like you have like a Jello atmosphere. Like if it was really Jello, maybe that would be the mechanism is Jello that would cling the airplane to go along as if you're in a stationary environment. So I mean,
Yeah, because
ultimately, what is that mechanism that maintains it being different than it would
But
be, as we all know, a tennis ball and a little toy plane would work?
but real
well, a
quick,
little
Gio,
toy
you and
plane
I
is
agree the
separate from
Jello, even the
a
Jello
tennis
wouldn't
ball
work,
because
right?
the
You and I
tennis ball
agree
does.
the
Okay, so
Jello wouldn't work if it's going the opposite direction. Even if it was Jello, we have winds as
okay,
Jello
Gio asked me a
going the
question.
opposite direction, as well as
Can I?
just
Gio
because
asked
I just
me a
want to make
question.
sure that everyone else knows. Gio agrees the Jello wouldn't work if it's going the opposite direction.
I'm waiting to get in. Just let me know. Let me know if I can talk.
Well, go ahead.
Thank you. So
Well, that would be a whole conversation about the Jello. I mean, the thing is, you're moving in relation
this,
to. I hear what he's saying though. If you're going east to west and then you're moving through the Jello, you're going against the
right, but
Jello versus with the Jello.
talk, can you listen?
okay. So here's the thing: is that if you have a toy plane and a tennis ball, the tennis ball has no atmosphere. It also is hollow, so it has no gravity. So they're two separate things, and you do that while you're on the Earth, which means you are also subject to gravity. So I mean, we talked about this. Gravity keeps the plane down, so the plane has to have lift to stay above the ground. Otherwise, it'll crash. And
So
if
what are
you're
you saying the
spinning,
mechanism is?
there's no whatever the mechanism. It's flight. The mechanism of flight is what keeps the plane up.
What? What do you mean? No, flight doesn't. What do you mean? No,
Evil.
we're talking about what keeps the plane in sync with the faster rotation at the equator. What mechanism does that? It's a
That's
very
not
direct question.
Yeah, there's no. I don't know if it's a.
There is no answer. It's okay. You
Yeah,
can act like
there
there
is
is,
an
even if
answer.
there
It's just
isn't.
without being
What is
offensive.
the answer? Go ahead.
It's a malformed question. First of all, the atmosphere does not
No,
enlarge
it's
that.
not.
The mechanism is flight. It's called flight.
What?
That's the
No,
mechanism.
the plane's going the opposite direction. The plane's flying. The flight of the plane is going the opposite
Someone else trying
direction
to
of
get
the
in.
spin. So what makes the plane stay in sync going faster eastward? I want to hear
Okay,
Red Cloud's mechanism.
it
He
isn't
doesn't
going
have
faster
one, but I just want to make
eastward.
sure everyone hears that he doesn't have one because there
I
isn't
do
one.
have
Because
one. You're just
because the
saying I
Earth
don't
isn't
have one.
moving.
You're
Okay,
just
what's the
saying I don't
mechanism?
have
Say it.
one. I
Everybody
do
else be
have
quiet.
one.
He's going to name the
Okay,
mechanism
dude,
that makes the plane
you
go
keep.
backwards
I'm not doing
faster
it.
than where it took off. Go ahead. Yep, you
No,
have to quit because you have no answer.
Will you stop talking?
Yep, go ahead. Mechanism, please.
There is no mechanism. The plane uses flight, aeronautical flight. It's got wings, it's got rudders, right? It's flying through the atmosphere, whatever
It's
the
flying in the
atmosphere is
opposite
doing.
direction of where
Okay,
it's flying the opposite direction though.
I can't
It has to go
even get my
faster
thoughts out.
eastward.
Jake, you got
You're
this.
saying it's flying, but we know the flight is going forward westward, right? So it has to be going faster eastward. If the plane is facing westward, the flight's not making it go faster eastward. It's the opposite direction. That's why you have no mechanism because it's
That
impossible.
point's yeah. Sorry. Like you need a mechanism for the description.
Let's imagine that the airplane takes off from the North Pole, right? Obviously, there's no airports there, right? Or better yet, South Pole, because there is an airport there. The airplane takes off with 0 tangential velocity, right? And then it's going to take at least 10 hours to get to the equator, right? Which means it's going to be having to pick up 60 miles per hour in tangential, to compensate for the 1,000-mile-per-hour tangential velocity over those 10 hours.
I think we've calculated that, haven't we? I think I've seen that calculated. It's not going to break the plane in two. It's calculable. That's the point. Is it's calculable.
It's not calculable though, Jake. I don't know if you're familiar with the scenario.
100
that I draw
well,
out.
let's say 100 miles per hour. It'd have to pick up 100 miles per hour. If we're going to say that it's going to land right on the equator, right? The tangential velocity is about 1,000 miles per hour. So it's going to go from a 0 to 1,000 miles per hour tangential velocity over a 10-hour period, right?
Right.
But here's the thing.
No, it can't. It doesn't do that.
But here's the thing. It's flying through an air mass that is going to be ever increasingly that is also following that tangential velocity. And you're going to say, oh, it's not lockstep. Of course, it's not completely lockstep. But at the equator, the winds are, 5, 10, 15, 20 miles an hour. They're not 1,000 miles an hour, right?
But the winds go in the opposite direction, right, Jake? Winds go westward too, not just eastward.
Yes, because the winds at the equator are driven by the heating of the sun, uneven heating of the earth, right? And
it's all about the sun. It has nothing to do with rotation. You're right.
Okay, but the jet streams are driven by the rotation of the earth. That's why there's west to east.
No, that's not true either. That's just the temperature. That's just temperature and pressure as well. It's not at all about the rotation.
Why are all the fastest jet streams
the globe does try to claim that the weather direction.
True, then why are all the fastest jet streams on Earth west to east?
Well, regardless of that argument, that's a whole separate argument, Jake.
Okay,
but I just want to make it clear.
Let's just ignore
real
that
quick,
one.
Jake, let me just explain. Let me explain clearly to you what your point. Okay, go ahead.
Okay, so if you accept that in the globe model, because there's viscous coupling with the surface, right? There's no slip condition in fluid dynamics. There's viscous drag with the surface of the earth, which, by the way, I don't know if you noticed it. It's got like trees and buildings and mountains and all kinds of things that are interacting with the air. It's viscously coupling with and dragging it around. So the air, just like if you take a bucket full of water, that's stationary water, and you start spinning the bucket, the water in the bucket will start to spin too because of viscous coupling between the walls of the bucket and the water, right? And you'll get to a point where if you spin the bucket for long enough, the water that's right near the edges of the bucket is spinning at the same speed as the bucket, right? Even though it's a fluid.
Yeah, but that I heard Casro take you apart on the no slip. Now you're using it as an argument for the globe. Casro took you apart on that because it only would be right next to the surface. No slip doesn't extend to like all the way up to the altitude of a plane. There's not a no slip air mass condition going on there at any kind of altitude very far above the earth if it were rotating. There's no rotation, bro. But let me just explain something to you, Jake. Why, even if it worked perfectly, like you say, this is why it doesn't work, right? Because you're talking about there would be a certain amount over time, the 10 hours, right, that the plane would have to pick up, right? So then you're also saying that the atmosphere is helping, right? So is it like 60% atmosphere and 40% picking up the plane on the plane's part? What's your percentage, even if that was the case? But none of it works anyway, because the scenario I draw out, it's just a joyriding plane. It's just a joyriding pilot. He's flying There's no ground path.
There's no ground path to correct for him. We can just use a hot air balloon, which is just moving with the air masses, right? If you had some way to navigate a hot air balloon from the North or South Pole to the equator, then it would pick up with that velocity because the constant air that's pushing against the side of this massive balloon is going to speed it up or slow it down.
Yeah, Jake, I think those are
but if there's westward winds, if there's heavy westward winds one day compared to light westward winds another, then the balloon's going to be at a totally different spot, which the wind's going the opposite direction of the spin.
You're failing to mention that the balloon is going to prevail to the forces on it. So if the balloon has any inertia that's left over that it's picked up or doesn't have, it's going to be imparted onto the balloon as it traverses the latitude.
No, you can have all of the conserved momentum, dude. If it took off at a 500 mile per hour latitude, not to say that I think that it would keep that 500 mile per hour eastward tangential velocity all the way to the equator, but even if it did, it would have to be moving at 1,000 miles an hour perfectly in sync for it to treat the Earth as stationary at the equator, so it breaks it.
Let
The
me ask you this:
Jello
if I had a
crystal.
balloon,
The Jello again.
if I inflated, let me just finish with them real quick, Red Cloud, because I got to go take a shower in a
Sure thing.
second. But
Sure thing.
if I inflated like a party balloon inside of a fighter jet, and then I opened up the canopy and I dropped it out of the fighter jet at 1,000 miles per hour, assuming that the balloon was malware or something and it didn't pop, right? How long do you think it would take for that balloon to slow back down to like relatively zero speed, just be carried by the winds aloft? How long would it maintain that 1,000 miles per hour for? What do you think?
Seconds.
Dude, not very long. I mean, that's the thing. Like, even as soon as the plane or balloon or helicopter takes off at the 500 mile per hour tangential velocity, it's arguable that it would lose it because of the friction of the air just being in the air and being high up enough. But it wouldn't conserve that momentum for very long, arguably, anyway. But even if you kept it
Exactly.
all,
It
you're not
wouldn't
going to have
conserve it for
1,000
long
miles
at
an
all.
hour. You're not
And
going
we're
to have
talking.
twice that when you get to the equator and land, dude.
Yeah,
You have to
but
have
it's going to
twice that,
conserve
and
it.
it already
You
lost the
just
conserved momentum.
you just admitted that if we had imagine we had an unimaginably large airplane, right, where we could stuff a full size hot air balloon inside it, and the airplane was going 1,000 miles per hour, and then we opened up the door and we dropped it out the back, right, and assuming that the balloon wouldn't be just ripped to shreds from from the sudden
Yeah,
wind that it
okay.
hits it. How long do you think that balloon would be going 1,000 miles per hour? It would decelerate within seconds, right? Probably within 15, 20 seconds, it would be
Yeah,
back to going
yeah,
with the
exactly.
speed of
We're
the air.
agreeing on that. I don't know why you think I'm
So
admitting something to
why
that.
can't
It
you
makes no,
imagine? Why
why do
can't
you
you
think that's me
imagine that
admitting something?
that changing into moving air masses wouldn't scrub away all the inertia from the airplane, whether it's taking off with
That's
1,000
what I'm
miles per hour of
saying.
inertia from the equator, or whether it's
That's what I'm saying,
accelerating up
dude.
to
You guys,
1,000
you
miles
It
guys
per
are
hour
wouldn't even
talking
have
too
the
over a
much here.
10-hour
500.
period?
Why are you
Over
agreeing
a
with me and
10-hour
acting like I'm
period.
admitting something?
Over a
Yeah,
10-hour
that's the thing.
period.
That conserved momentum would be gone, especially if it took off from the pole like you started.
They
It wouldn't
they
even have any eastward conserved momentum.
they
Yeah,
It would
but
did
have
not.
zero. So
Can I get
what's
in?
your point?
engines and
Yo,
wings.
can I get in?
Go for
Yo,
it.
so when you were asking them for the mechanism, right? Red Cloud
Yeah.
denied the one mechanism that mechanically, dynamically explains